It is hot today in San Antonio as we welcome you to Trinity University, the site of today's game between Trinity, Texas and the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor. I'm Cole Isaacson, joined alongside Caleb Reed and Luke Terry, and welcome to Division III football's Game of the Week. These two teams have national championship aspirations, but both come into this game 0-1. Let's start with Trinity. They were up by 17 against St. John's in Minnesota. They lose in overtime. Caleb, how do they bounce back in this one?
The biggest thing that Coach Urban talked about leading up to this game was just making sure to execute. One of the big quotes that he said was, "Cannot let St. John's beat you 2 weeks in a row." Unfortunately, Trinity comes into this 0-1. It's already happened. Now they need to focus on Mary Hardin-Baylor and focus on this game ahead.
So we're about to get underway in this one. Bruner set to send it away to Trinity, and we are underway from One Trinity Place in San Antonio, Texas. A short kick brought out by B.J. Stewart. Stewart past the 20 and going to be brought down at about the 22. B.J. Stewart, somebody who was injured last week and did not suit up for St. John's. So good to see him back in the maroon and white as the Trinity offense will get the ball back. And they'll be led out by Tucker Horn. He had a good game last week against St. John's, but they lose the lead late. They struggled to score in that fourth quarter. And then the costly fumble at the end with a chance to win the game with a field goal. Trinity starts this one 1st and 10 from the 22. Horn throws it out to B.J. Rainey. Rainey down the sideline and going to be forced out of bounds, as that'll be a gain of about 3.
Yeah, it's a nice little chunk play on first down right there, like you said, Cole. A gain about 3 or 4 on the outside, and I think that's what this offense does a lot, and they do it really well. They don't like to or don't love to run the ball in the middle of the field. They'll try and jam it in at the goal line, but it's about getting the ball in the hands of these wide receivers and letting them work in space.
2nd down and 7. Horn, throw over the middle, incomplete, tipped dangerously in the air. Intended receiver was Caleb Crawford, and it'll bring up 3rd and long for the Tigers.
And again, another one of those really quick routes over the middle. Tucker Horn really at his very best when he's dropping back quickly, getting the ball out in rhythm. Put that one on his receiver's hands, but ultimately in.
3rd down and long coming up for the Tigers. Horn steps up. He's going to try and run it. Horn hit it about the 1st down marker. We'll see what the spot is. It's going to be close. He looked a little short from our angle, and we'll see where these refs come in. And they are going to signal 1st down for Trinity. So a good run by Tucker Horn on 3rd and long.
Yeah, and really good protection, honestly. Horn having enough time to drop back. The pocket's clean, but there's nothing there in the secondary. Good job by the Crusaders, but Horn doing just enough, taking the contact, but just lunging forward to pick up the 1st down.
1st and 10 after the run. It's a give to Carmouche. Carmouche with a cut. Carmouche trying to break it to the outside. He's going to be close to the 1st down marker. They're going to give him 7 on that one, and it's a good 1st down gain for Trinity.
Absolutely, Cole. And as we already alluded to, this isn't a team that rushes the ball a ton in their own territory or in the middle of the field. They like to try and hammer it on the goal line, but that's always a good sign when you can get some push early in the game, especially against a team like UMHB, a team against which they have struggled to really run the ball effectively.
Winston Hutchinson checks in the backfield for Trinity. He gets the carry here, slipped a little bit, and maybe gets to the original line to gain. Looks like they're going to mark that down for a loss of 1. It'll bring up 3rd down.
And there were some Crusader linebackers celebrating in the backfield right there. Number 28, Johnny Smith-Ryder, who returns from this Crusader defense a year ago. A couple of really, really strong linebackers in this unit. He got some really early penetration there and tried to stick his foot in the ground and just ultimately fell down.
So another 3rd down coming up for Trinity. This one shorter than the last one. Horn steps up, throws. It's going to be brought in. A good catch and a first down for the Tigers. That looks like it's Carter Self.
Yeah, and again, just taking what the defense is giving you. Tucker Horn with all day to throw. He drops back, settles, and his receiver has a ton of space, knows what the situation is right there. That's what this offense is great at. Just understanding the down and distance, not trying to pick up too much. They keep the chains moving and pick up a second first down on this opening drive of the home opener.
Play action, Horn over the middle, it's caught. Who else but Ryan Merrifield finding the chains and getting a gain of 11.
And so similar to the start that we saw last weekend when this team went up to Minnesota. Horn dropping back in rhythm, getting the ball out, and just hitting his receivers in stride early on.
That first drive against St. John's, Trinity eventually stopped on the goal line. They're looking for a different result on this opening drive. They have it in Mary Hardin-Baylor territory. Give to Hutchinson. Hutchinson, a good run on first down as he's brought down at about the 35 of UMHB. These Tigers have quite the rotation at running back. They have about 3 different ones they use. As Winston Hutchinson jogs off the field, it'll be Legend Grigsby checking in. The only one we haven't seen yet. Carmouche got the start to the game.
Yeah, and all 3 of these backs have been great for the last couple of seasons. It's, as you've mentioned, been kind of a revolving door at the position, but they've settled nicely into this trio. Everyone's bought in. They all get used in different capacities. As Grigsby does really well to pick up a block right there in pass pro, and ultimately Tucker Horn sails that throw on the outside down the sideline. But kind of the quota for this offense, taking a shot on a second and medium in this part of the field, something that we've seen over the last couple of years, because now it sets up, again, a very manageable third and medium distance.
That pass was intended for Carter Self down the right sideline. It'll bring up 3rd down and 6 for Trinity. Horn stands in, throws, it's going to be caught. Caleb Crawford comes back to the football, gets a few extra yards, but he has the Tiger first down at about the 30.
Yeah, and again, it's like beating a dead horse at this point, Cole, but this offense understands the down and distance. At a certain point, this Crusader defense is going to have to recognize and adjust. They're going to have to step up, try and jam some of these receivers at the line. You can't allow them to get free releases, especially in a down distance, kind of that third and medium scenario, especially when your defensive line isn't getting pressure on this first drive of the afternoon.
Ball be spotted at the 28-yard line. As here's a give for Grigsby, his first of the day. Grigsby trying to fight for extra yards, but a group of white jerseys there to meet him. The Crusaders stop him only after a gain of about 2.
Yeah, not the same push from the offensive line for Trinity right there. They didn't necessarily go backwards, but as you mentioned, a swarm of white jerseys for UMHB. They did a really good job of just clogging those running lanes. Grigsby tried to bounce it to the outside, but he ultimately went in the direction of a one-on-one block where a wide receiver was trying to pick up a linebacker and put him in a bad position. Luckily, he was able to get just back to the sticks.
Here's Horn. Horn under some pressure. He's going to escape. Horn still looking downfield. Now he's going to run with it. Out of bounds inside the 25. They'll call it at the 23. And a good run for Tucker Horn.
Yeah, again, scanning in the pocket, scrambling to the outside, but making the right decision there to tuck the ball, pick up the yardage the defense gave him, and putting the Tigers maybe into field goal range. But again, a 3rd and manageable at a point in the field where over the past couple of years, we're more often than not feeling like this is a team in 4-down territory. You have 2 downs right here. Try and pick up 5 yards.
It will be 3rd and 5. 2 for 2 on 3rd down already on this drive. Horn lobs it for the end zone. Caught for the touchdown. Ethan Boyer reels it in. And Trinity, a strong opening drive to take the early lead.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see this one on the replay. Ethan Boyer, not a guy that's gotten his number called a ton. I think the Tigers had trips to the bottom of the screen. Boyer was the second of the trio down there, and he ran a beeline to the corner of the end zone, just beating his man on a straight sprint right there. It was number 7, Dorian Williams, for the Crusaders in coverage, but just a perfect throw by Tucker Horn, put it in the back of the end zone, made sure not to underthrow it, and Ethan Boyer hauling that one in with some strong hands. Nice to see it for the 5th year to open the season at home.
Tyler Huddle makes the extra point, and it's 7-0 Trinity early. Definitely a change of pace from last year's game in the postseason. Mary Hardin-Baylor getting out to a 3-score lead in that third quarter. Scoring the first points of the game, different story now here.
Absolutely. I think both of the games that we've seen between these two opponents, Cole, have really been defensive-minded matchups. We saw a little bit more offense here in the second round of the playoffs last season, but these two affairs were both relatively low scoring at the D3 level, last year's being a 24-17 game, the 2021 opening round being 13-3. I think Coach Harmon on the other side wanted to set the tone and maybe give a little bit of help to his younger quarterback, Isaac Fay, trying to establish things early on, but Tucker Horn, the veteran QB for Trinity, marched right down the field and took advantage of possession on the opening drive.
Some uncertainty as to whether Horn would get in this game. Jeremy Urban saying that he was listed in NFL terms as questionable, but obviously looking really good there.
You mentioned, of course, the veteran experience. This is a very veteran Trinity team. 16 fifth-year seniors here on this Tiger roster. And
that one will be brought out by UMHB, taking it around the 20, and that's where he'll be marked out.
And the fifth-year experience is definitely something that Coach Urban talked about a lot during our meeting. Just really happy to have all those seniors back, of course, for another extra year.
So UMHB will get the ball at about their own 20 after the return and enter sophomore quarterback Isaac Fay. A big question mark coming into this game as UMHB lost their first 2 quarterbacks in the loss to River Falls last week. Isaac Fay making his first start with the crew. What are we expecting out of him?
Well, like we were just alluding to, I think Coach Harmon wanted to get the defense out there to make a stop and just ultimately make things easier for Fay. And I think the other way he can do that is by simplifying the offense. He talked about Fay being a little bit less experienced than the other quarterback options that they have on this roster. How do you get him going, right? Put him in scenarios where he can be successful, shorten the down and distance. That's what they did by handing the ball off on first down. They really, really need to get the running game going this week. They struggled to do so last week. They finished actually with net rushing yardage on the ground for the afternoon.
Here's Fay. He'll give it to Cormier. And Cormier going to be stopped just past the line of scrimmage. Nowhere to go for Cormier. And it'll bring up 3rd down and long. The exact situation UMHB was trying to avoid.
Yeah, and here, ultimately, you have to expect Fay to have to put the ball in the air. So we're going to see what the Crusaders bring out offensively, what kind of set. Looks like they're going to have five offensive linemen in there, so pretty typical protection. See if Trinity can't get some penetration, get some pressure on the edges.
Here's Fay on 3rd down. Throwing over the middle, it's going to be caught. And it looks like he will have enough for the first. As that's Jerry Cephas making the reception. He had over 100 yards last week, and he's emerging to quite the threat for UMHB.
And that's another thing that you certainly want to have if you have a young quarterback. You want someone who's sure-handed and is going to come out and establish himself as a weapon you can use, whether it's a long ball down the field or just simply putting the ball in his hands like they did right there.
Here's Cormier, and again, Cormier not going to get very far. Only a gain of 2 on first down as the Tigers are really bottling him up.
Yeah, and that time Cormier coming to the near side of the field. Ultimately, I think more often than not, we're going to see him take the ball on the far side behind the right side of the offensive line. That's where Ethan Ruckman's playing at right tackle, standing in at 6'3", 300 pounds. He's an All-American caliber player. He's received those honors before. As that
ball
one
on
ends
the
up on the ground.
Fay, the awareness to pick it up, but a botched handoff. And then it'll lead to 3rd and really long. And if we didn't want to put him in 3rd down and 7, you can imagine 3rd and 15 is definitely not the way they wanted to go.
Yeah. I mean, that 3rd and 7, you still had the opportunity to really just get a guy right at the sticks, play a little pitch and catch. That's exactly what they did. Now, Fay's going to have to stand back in the pocket. We'll see if this Mary Hardin-Baylor offensive line can stand up to a little bit of pass rush right here.
Here's Fay. Fay lobbing it down the sideline. Nobody home. Intended target was Jerry Day Jr.
We've got a flag in the pocket.
Good eye, Caleb. There is a flag in the backfield, and we'll see who that's going to be on.
It seemed like that ball came out really early.
And that will go against the Tigers.
And I say that it came out really early because I didn't think that anyone got home to hit Fay on that one. My initial reaction would have been the fact that he sailed that ball from in the pocket, and maybe it could have been an intentional grounding call, but we'll have to see if we can get a replay of that one and recognize which of the Tigers it was that laid the hit on the quarterback. But unfortunate mistake to extend the drive for Mary Hardin-Baylor here after that 3rd and long seemed to have him walking off the field.
And that mistake wasn't a mistake on Fay. It was miscommunication between the two.
Fay swings that one out and nowhere to go. Trying to set up the screen for TJ Rome, but the Tigers roll all over it.
And this is one of the best defensive boxes in the entire country at this level. A ton of speed all across this unit. The guys up front, even though they can push their own weight around, they have a 3 down front with Harris Good, Jacob Munoz, and Carson Bird. They can fly around, but they do a great job of using their strength to keep these linebackers clean as well.
Fay trying to escape. He's going to dirt it, and we'll see if there's going to be a flag on that. And it looks like they're actually going to call him down. It'll be a sack.
Yeah, and again, this defensive line, I think it's going to be number 91, Carson Bird at the bottom of your screen, throwing a nice swim move right there, ultimately wrapping up Fay, and the referee from behind him calling that knee down before he was able to get that ball out. So despite the penalty that kept this offense on the field, another 3rd and long here.
3rd and even longer. 3rd and 22. Fay steps up, throws it to the sideline. It's going to be caught. That's the tight end, Will McClintock, but he will be nowhere close to the 1st down marker. And UMHB will be forced to punt.
And the thing about that situation right there is ultimately there's no plays in your playbook designed to get you 25 yards, right? Unless it's a home run ball, 4 deeps, throwing one up at the end of a half, you're not in a situation like that very frequently. It was a nice throw by Fay, one that certainly got him on rhythm, but now we're going to have to see if Mary Hardin-Baylor can get this ball punted away cleanly.
That was an issue for them last week. 3 missed punts as that's a low snap and nearly blocked. And they're going to say that it was blocked. That ball will roll down to the 29. That is where the Tigers will take over. Another near disaster for Mary Hardin-Baylor on special teams.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that one did get tipped off of his foot, but a pretty good result, all things considered. That was another low snap coming in, certainly disrupted the timing. No one ultimately burst through that last line of defense for the Crusaders, but they got enough push to get a hand on that football. Now we're going to have to see if this Crusader defense can step up and create a stop and get the ball back in some decent field position for their young quarterback.
A lot of starters returning on defense, a lot of those 5th years that left from last season, mostly on offense. So this defense has another year to grow as this carry to Hutchison. And not a huge gain on 1st down. They'll give him 2.
Yeah, and 2-3 yard gains might not seem like a ton for those of you watching at home, but the precedent that's been set in this game the last couple of years looks like this. In the 2021 playoff game, And in the 2022 playoff game, Trinity averaged only 1.1 yard per carry on the ground. So the push that this offensive line has gotten early on these first two drives, much better than what we're accustomed to in this matchup.
Horn over the middle. That's going to be caught fighting for extra yards as Merrifield. But he's going to be short of the marker. A good gain on second down as they'll bring up 3rd and 1. This is a situation the Tigers struggled in that playoff game. 3rd down and 1. Had 2 situations in that game where they had 3rd and 1 and then couldn't convert on 4th and 1 either. Just shows the struggles that Trinity has had to run the ball against UMHB.
They're not going with a heavy set up front. They got twins split out on either side, so I'd expect them to throw it again here.
Horn will throw over the middle, and that's going to be caught. B.J. Stewart with the reception at the midfield logo. The Tigers will take it to the 47, and they have another 3rd down conversion.
Yeah, and again, what we talked about earlier, putting the ball in the hands of your best weapons on offense is never a bad thing. B.J. Stewart didn't get to go in week 1 at St. John's. He's a dangerous guy in the kick and punt return game, but he's an awesome guy to have in the slot because he has elite speed and he can make you miss in the open field.
It's another good gain for the Tigers, this time on 1st down. Winston Hutchison. The good carry as Trinity showing their ability to run the ball a little better this time.
Yeah, and that one, just a simple little toss from Horn to Hutchison to get him outside of the tackles. This, again, is a team that we've struggled to run the ball against, mixing it up, trying to get these running backs into open space, but also trying to establish that run against this front 7, incredibly important. Both of them having some pretty solid success on these opening drives.
2nd and 3 in Mary Hardin-Baylor territory. Give is to Grigsby. Grigsby has a lane. Grigsby into open field. Breaks a tackle. Past the 20, and legend Grigsby is going to score. Touchdown, Trinity. A big run from legend Grigsby, and the Tigers are up 13-0.
And we just talked about it. They're trying to get both things established. A pitch to the outside to Winston Hutchison, followed by an inside give to legend Grigsby. He hits that hole, and once he gets to the secondary, he just explodes. He gets that last line of defense off of him, and then he shows off some more elite speed on this team. You got a couple of members of the Trinity track and field team, a couple of guys that work together on the 4x100 relay to at least tie the school record in that event. That speed showing dividends early on here in the first quarter in San Antonio, and it has the Tigers up 14-0 on the Mary Hardin-Baylor Crusaders.
Huddle's extra point is good, and we talk about the carousel of running backs that the Tigers have used for the last few years. Grigsby a part of that. Not listed on the 2 deep, but you see the impact that he makes and why you have to keep an eye on all of these running backs. As Trinity already showing their ability to run the ball much better in this game.
And also showcasing Trinity's ability to score very quick. Of course, they went up early against St. John. Managed to get a 17-point lead early. Of course, lost it late, but right now Trinity is looking incredible. 14-0 lead here in the first, and hoping to continue that here with strong defense, able to keep UMHB at least away from the end zone. And so far, the offense doing its job.
Back-to-back touchdown drives for the Tigers as Huddle tees it up. Strong start offensively for Trinity. Already up 14-0, and probably the worst-case scenario for Mary Hardin-Baylor. It was down 14-0 against River Falls in the first quarter last week. Will they be able to come back this time, as this is a short kick? Trying to weave his way through, but eventually tripped up at about the 20, and that is where the Crusaders will take over. 14-0. Tigers still have the lead.
During our meeting with Coach Harmon, he mentioned how UMHB had to execute and had to be on top of things. At the moment, they're kind of struggling with it, but they haven't turned the ball over like they did so much last week. So at least some positives coming for the Crusaders early.
No turnovers in this one. Their defense hasn't been able to pick them up so far. Isaac Faye and the offense try and get some of these points back. They'll give to Cormier. Cormier trying to find some room and not going to find any. Brought down in the backfield, the host of maroon jerseys, and it looked like Mac Douglas is the one who's going to get the tackle.
Yeah, walk down linebacker, making a nice play for Trinity right there. I'll echo what I said earlier in the game. They play with just those 3 down linemen, but they do like to walk down one of those linebackers off the edge. More often than not, it's been Mac Douglas this year. Still trying to establish the run, Mary Hardin-Baylor is. They've gone behind that right side, which has better size as Faye sails that one down the right sideline. They haven't been able to get any push, but it's just the quickness of this defensive front that's beating them. Cormier, a bigger back at 225, hasn't been able to really change direction in the backfield. These Tigers have just gotten there too quickly, and as you mentioned, Cole, so many of them getting there at once. He is a bigger back, but he's not able to shed 3 tacklers at once.
Cormier, in his first 20 carries last week, only had 19 yards. Once again, Mary Hardin-Baylor struggling to run the ball to start the game. Flipping the script from last 2 meetings between these 2 teams. Here's Faye. Under some pressure, throws it down the sideline. It's going to be caught. Jerry Cephas reeling it in about midfield. The explosive weapon for Mary Hardin-Baylor has a first down.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be his guy all afternoon. Last week, we saw Cephas catch 6 balls for 111 yards and a touchdown. That time, just enough separation that Faye could drop that one in over the top. I think Trey King, number 8 for Trinity at cornerback, is probably going to move with Cephas. He's a guy that in the past has taken the tough matchups. Last year at home, he did the same. Mary Hardin-Baylor was able to take advantage of it a little bit. They do so right there, and for the first time this evening, they have the ball in Trinity uniform in pretty desperate need of an answer.
Here's Cormier. He has back-to-back carries. It'll make it more of a 3rd and manageable. This is the first time Mary Hardin-Baylor has crossed midfield trying to make something happen.
You mentioned the Cephas and King matchup. That is going to be a matchup that we are going to be looking at all night long, I feel. Wide receiver 1 versus cornerback 1. Both of these guys are incredibly skilled, leaders of their positions for both teams, and that's going to be a fun matchup to watch as this game progresses for sure.
As that is the end of the first quarter. And it couldn't have been a better one for the Trinity Tigers. They lead 14-0. You're watching this game on Tiger Network. And welcome back to Tiger Network, San Antonio, Texas. 14-0. The Trinity Tigers lead started the second quarter. Bay over the middle. That's going to be McClintock. He's going to be driven back. But I believe forward progress will net him a first down for the Crew.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that running play. One of the first positive gains that we saw on the ground for Cormier on that first down in Trinity territory, picked up about 5. It's just because the offense is rolling a little bit now. things are moving a little bit quicker. This Trinity defense doesn't have as much time to adjust and get set. That's what Mary Hardin-Baylor needs to continue to do all night. Just try and get into a better rhythm. They've stayed ahead of the sticks on this drive, and another nice run by Cormier, who picks up about 8 and barrels through a Trinity tackler at the end of that run.
Good run for Cormier and the power at the end of it. Big back for Mary Hardin-Baylor. It was kind of like Trinity, a running back by committee last season, but Cormier, one of the few that remain from that team, as he's taken the reins as RB1. Second down and 3 for UMHB at the Trinity 29. As they will give it up the middle. That's Miller, and Miller breaks a tackle. Miller fighting down to the 2. And it'll be first and goal for Mary Hardin-Baylor. Kenneth Miller Jr. showing his legs.
Yeah, and after an entire opening quarter where this offensive line didn't get really any push at all, we see a 2-back backfield right there for Mary Hardin-Baylor.
Give to Cormier. Cormier fighting and in for the touchdown. Kenneth Cormier Jr. puts the Crusaders on the board.
We've got a flag out for something. It was thrown incredibly late.
It's likely an unsportsmanlike penalty on one of these two teams, considering the fact that it came in after the play was over. But I do want to go back to that big run from Miller. This offensive line wasn't getting a ton of push. They did a good job on that run, but it was both Miller and Cormier on either side of Faye in the backfield, and it was Cormier who was getting a nice block on the edge, opening up a gap for Miller to scamper through. And then we were talking about a kind of running back committee that this team had last year. It was the first carry for Miller on the evening, and it paid dividends for this Mary Hardin-Baylor offense. A little bit of a change of pace, and he gashed the Tigers big time, setting them up just off the goal line, and Cormier paying the dividends in the end, ultimately punching that one in.
Bruner on for the PAT. It is good. So after we address the penalty, Mary Hardin-Baylor gets its 7th point of the game. 14-7, Trinity has the lead, but Mary Hardin-Baylor obviously encroaching on that lead. So what do the Tigers need to do offensively to stop any momentum that they would get?
I think they need to do exactly what they've done all game. They've been very balanced. They've marched right down the field. You can call the Ethan Boyer touchdown to open things a little bit of a home run ball, but they were moving it at ease before that one ultimately ended up in 6 points on the board, right? Continue to pick up first downs. We've talked about the fact that this offense can score really quickly, but I think you want to hold the ball right here, give your defense a little bit of a break after Mary Hardin-Baylor went down the field, push the lead back to 2 scores, and I think you're going to be feeling very, very comfortable.
Trinity has scored 2 touchdowns on its only 2 drives. That's a pretty good percentage. As Mary Hardin-Baylor gets set to send it back to him. Did not let this game get away from them like they did last week. They were down 28-3 with about 10 minutes remaining in the second quarter, as that game was never in doubt at River Falls.
With that unsportsmanlike penalty applied to the Crusaders, they'll be kicking this one from their own 20, so a little bit of added advantage to these Trinity returners.
As B.J. Stewart will get this at his own 15. Stewart bounces it to the outside. Stewart to the 40, tries to make a move back in, but he'll be forced out of bounds at about the 41. B.J. Stewart, the dangerous returner for Trinity, back, and you can feel his presence when he's back there.
Oh, absolutely. And it's obviously not what you want to have the opposing offense starting at their 40, but with his ability, I think this is a result you'll take. I'm not sure who it was, but that dive that you saw in the replay right there, whoever was in pursuit of B.J. Stewart did a nice job of making him extend that play from east to west, getting him to the sideline so that others in pursuit could get him pushed out of bounds.
B.J. Stewart, 4 kick return touchdowns overall, 1 on kickoff, 3 on punts, as this will be a first down run. Gain of about 3 for Winston Hutchison. And it'll bring up 2nd and 7.
And a good job from the offensive line on the left side right there, really washing down the defensive line and the linebackers. But it was a good read in the secondary for Mary Hardin-Baylor, coming up and limiting that to only a 3-yard gain.
2nd down at their own 45. Horn will throw, and incomplete. Going for his receiver, Cole Monego. Monego getting really involved last week. Had a 37-yard touchdown at St. John's, but they can't connect there.
Yeah, and it was a period in which we didn't see Ryan Merrifield out on the field a ton after his first drive or two of that game were incredibly fruitful. But Monego came on. He made the most of his opportunity. He showed out incredibly well, and he was one of the Tigers that got into the scoring column last year in the second-round playoff game against Mary Hardin-Baylor. He'll look to have an effect on 3rd and long.
3rd and long for Horn. Over the middle, it's caught. Carter Self breaks away. Carter Self inside the 40, down at the 39. As the Tigers convert another 3rd down. They started 10 for 11 last week at St. John's. And a good start here to this game.
Another clean pocket for Tucker Horn. This Crusader defense electing not to bring any pressure, whether it's from these linebackers or from anyone in the secondary. Horn just a little bit too clean. These receivers running good routes and having a nice understanding of the down and distance. Self with plenty of space around him to haul that one in and pick up a little bit of extra yardage. And Trinity doing a nice job of converting on a long 3rd down there.
Give to Carmouche as he fights for a gain of 3 as the Tigers, they haven't really had any runs that have lost yardage. They've been getting 2, 3, unless you're Legend Grigsby. In that case, you just get about half the field. But it's been positive plays on the running game.
Yeah, and that's been the difference, especially in that first quarter. We saw Trinity, at worst, get back to the line of scrimmage, not take any negative plays. But on the other side for Mary Hardin-Baylor, there were a couple of losses. There were some penalties. We saw Faye go down, get sacked. It's something they're going to have to limit, and it's something that Trinity's done really well so far.
Horn throws for Carmouche. Carmouche stays in bounds and dives past the 1st down marker. Great athleticism by the running back, Justin Carmouche, as he gets a 1st down inside the 30.
And I'm not sure who that was. I think that's Dorian Williams, number 7, who wrapped him up. Actually, number 9, Titus Dunk for the Crusaders, trying to spin him out of bounds. But when he threw him at the end, he ultimately wasn't out on that white. Carmouche having nice recognition to barrel forward and lunge for the 1st down.
Horn will throw on 1st down. Horn deep for the end zone, caught for the touchdown! Cole Monego, his 2nd in 2 weeks, and the Tigers go down the field for a 3rd time tonight.
Absolutely incredible throw there by Horn, just able to read that play. The defender wasn't able to see what the number was. We're going to get it on the replay here. Leapt up for it. That's going to be number 0, Kyron Deal, the defensive back there for Mary Hardin-Baylor. Horn just placed that ball absolutely perfectly for Monego, and that is going to result in 6 points, hopefully 7 coming up.
Huddle for the extra point. It is good. And there is that 7th point, 21-7. Trinity gives up the touchdown, then they go back and get it right back, picking up their defense.
Almost as dominant a drive as you could have asked for. We just talked about the fact that's what you wanted to see from them. Continue to pick up some 1st downs, maybe eat a little bit more clock. They scored that one really, really quick. We'll remind you at home, Mary Hardin-Baylor got on the board for the first time this quarter. So in less than 4 minutes, they scored their opening touchdown of the game, and Trinity was able to march all the way down the field and respond. But one thing that we're going to have to note all evening long is the penalties. Mary Hardin-Baylor has been dinged a couple of times, including when they scored the touchdown, that unsportsmanlike penalty that got tacked on to the kickoff, gave Trinity some good field position after a B.J. Stewart return, and made the field just a little bit smaller for the offense to go and march down.
Huddle tees this one up. Set to send it back to Isaac Faye and the Mary Hardin-Baylor offense, and they have some work to do. playing catch-up right from the get. It's already a 14-point Trinity lead. As this kick will go into the back of the end zone for a touchback. And touchbacks have been a big story this year on special teams.
Yeah, we'll flash back to last year and the stats that we saw in the kickoff department. On the entire year, Trinity kicked off about 80 times on the season, and we saw 7 touchbacks. With that one right there, Huddle has hit 7 on this season alone. He had 6 last week at St. John's. His 2 in the first quarter were mighty impressive as well. Both of those drives started inside the 20 for Mary Hardin-Baylor. Just an incredible weapon to have to take away some pretty good returners on a lot of these Division III teams.
That pass reeled in by T.J. Roan. That's his second catch of the game. As Mary Hardin-Baylor tries to answer the Trinity touchdown drive. They have 3 quality receivers. All 3 of them have a target today. That will be first down and 10 at their own 41. Miller in the backfield for Mary Hardin-Baylor. They fake it to him. No, they give it to him. And fights his way up for about a gain of 2.
Going back to the penalty on that last drive, Luke, that you were talking about, Mary Hardin-Baylor has not done a very good job of really getting out of their own way. They committed 5 turnovers last week, of course. The big thing that Coach Harmon talked about was just not making mistakes. Penalties, of course, being some of those mistakes along with the turnovers. And that is something that Mary Hardin-Baylor is really going to have to do coming into the house of the number 5 team in the nation at the moment.
That pass caught by Miller, but a big hit applied. Trey King lowering the shoulder. There'll be no gain on the play, and 3rd and 7 coming up for the Crew.
Yeah, and we'll see the replay of it right here. King recognizing that one really early on. I think Mary Hardin-Baylor was in the near boundaries. That made that a little bit of a longer throw for Faye and gave King plenty of time to close and lay that big hit to make sure Mary Hardin-Baylor didn't gain any yardage there.
He didn't even lower his shoulder. He just stood him up. That was like a hockey hit. It brings up 3rd down and 7. Their own 43. Faye gonna go deep. He's got Cephas. Cephas still running inside the 20, down at the 19. And a big play for Jerry Cephas, and Mary Hardin-Baylor takes it to the red zone.
And we'll see on the bottom of the screen what happens right here. Trey Green was just in pursuit of Cephas out of the shot right there, but you can see number 16 must have gotten beat when Cephas made that move to the inside, but plenty of separation as Faye just put that one up and let his receiver run under it.
Faye's going to throw to the end zone, too strong. Going for Jerry Day Jr., who caught a touchdown from Faye last weekend.
Caleb, I want to return to that point that you were expanding on, the fact that this is a team that has stood in its way a little bit, especially last week. They didn't take care of the ball the way that you expect a championship program like Mary Hardin-Baylor to take care of the ball, but really getting into a rhythm here this afternoon. That was a big 3rd down pickup. The offense is starting to do what you would expect from it. It's got to continue here as that one swung to the outside.
T.J. Roan still fighting for some extra yards. Maybe gets back to the line of scrimmage, but the Tigers all over that one.
Fantastic job there by Ryan Arnold. Missed the tackle there at first, but then managed to get up very high motor and then ultimately helped assist to make that tackle. But that could have broken for pretty big before the Tigers swarmed him.
Yeah, one of the most important things is just getting there and disrupting the play. Ryan Arnold showing off his speed from the linebacker position. Makes Roan put a foot in the ground, but by the time he's changing direction and starting to go again, Tigers have swarmed him.
Faye over the middle. That's going to be caught by McClintock, but he's going to go nowhere. Quinn McDermott in there to make the tackle inside the 15, as it'll be 3rd down for Mary Hardin-Baylor. It'll be 4th down, as that was 3rd down, 4th and 5. And a decision to make as they will send the field goal unit on.
McDermott, who made that tackle, getting a little bit more looks today, of course, with fifth-year senior Casey Hampton being out, but so far has had a pretty good game.
Bruner on for the field goal. Be from 30 as that one is good. Bruner, the ASC Special Teams Player of the Week, and he cuts the score to 21-10.
Yeah, and an interesting decision from Coach Harmon in that area of the field. About a 30-yard field goal right there, especially considering the struggles that they've had on special teams to start the year. But when you look at it from the flip side, seeing a snap and hold and kick go through the uprights is another thing that you always want to instill confidence in that unit. Good to have it early on in this game. Draw it back just a little bit closer. Make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot, giving Trinity any momentum by maybe allowing a defense to get a 4th and 5 stop right there. Maybe a 4th and a little bit shorter, I would have understand Cormier getting a handoff, but don't want to risk it. Take the points. It's a plus for the offense being able to drive back down the field even after Trinity had scored that last touchdown. The offense, again, getting into its rhythm, keeping itself ahead of the chains on that drive. They've done it a couple times in a row. Now you're asking your defense to come out here, get a stop, maybe even get a turnover, at least try and flip field position right here.
7:33 remaining in this half as this game has flown by. Bruner to send it away as that kick goes towards the sideline and out of bounds, so there will be a flag on that, and the Tigers will take over at the 35 unless they want him to re-kick it.
And with BJ Stewart back there, it's always something to consider. I think Coach Urban, after seeing, actually, he's having a little bit longer of a discussion with the officials than I anticipated, but ultimately he is going to send his offense out there.
That's something we've seen Mary Hardin-Baylor do in the past, decide.
Number 18, the kicking team. Ball we place at 35-yard line. First down, Trinity.
As the referee makes the announcement that Coach Urban has decided to take the ball at the 35. That's something we've seen Mary Hardin-Baylor do. They like to make you re-kick it as they want a big return. Their special teams unit, they trust them to do that. They have in the past few years. So Horn and the offense take over at their own 35. This first play is a running play, and it goes absolutely nowhere. Mason Cavness there to make the tackle, and it'll be a loss of 1.
Yeah, and a really nice play by the interior defensive lineman. Gets really, really quick penetration. Is able to wrap up the young running back, Johnny Milo, who's in there taking the reps for Trinity right now. But that's the type of statement play. Puts Trinity maybe just a yard behind the sticks, but for one of the first times tonight, behind the sticks nonetheless. So 2nd and 11 right here, and we'll see how Trinity can respond, especially this offensive line.
Horn will throw. Trying to roll out, and he's going to go down. Mary Hardin-Baylor gets the sack as this defense is starting to show some life.
Yeah, and it's this defensive line. It's a unit that is mostly new. A lot of turnover. This Crusader front, all 4 starters from last year left, but now they're starting to get a little bit more push, get some more pressure. Horn forced up in the pocket again. We've seen him escape and pick up a couple of yards in those circumstances early in the game, but the overall pursuit from that entire unit was better right there.
Dylan Botts getting credit for the sack for Mary Hardin-Baylor. 3rd down and 12 for the Tigers. Horn looking over the middle. That'll be caught. Caleb Crawford, but that's not going to be near enough. And the Tigers will be forced to punt for the first time tonight.
Yeah, and a better pocket on that play. Tucker Horn having a little bit of time to stand back there. But much like we talked about earlier in the game for the Crusaders, when you put yourself in a position behind the sticks, you don't have a huge playbook to go out there and pick up 15 yards. A lot of what this Trinity offense is trying to do is these short pitch and catch plays over the middle to put the ball in the receiver's hands. It works really well when you pick up yards on first down, but we see the end result there.
Gaiman has this one blocked, and it'll float out of bounds. at about the 10-yard line. So a huge momentum swing for Mary Hardin-Baylor. Their special teams unit that let them down so much last week comes up with a huge play to change momentum.
And I'm not entirely sure what happened there. You see number 21, Caleb Harmel, the starting middle linebacker, is one of the guys that we see on that unit all the time. He lines up as one of those up backs. It was a bull rush, and I don't know what happened on that one. Just not nearly enough presence from those up backs with three guys coming through, and it was really any of them that could have gotten a hand on that punt. But this is exactly what we just talked about. This defense doing its job, the special teams unit setting up incredible starting field position for the Crusaders.
Play action, intercepted! And he loses the ball, but able to pick it up is Caleb Harmel. And Caleb Harmel reverses momentum right back to the Tigers. He got ejected last week for targeting, and this defense clearly missed him in that fourth quarter, but making his presence felt there.
And what a whirlwind of emotions on that play right there. A great play by Harmel, and the ball ultimately gets knocked out, but we saw the two backs in the backfield earlier on this quarter. Miller picking up that huge gain and setting up Mary Hardin-Baylor for their first score of the evening. That time we saw the play action off of that. We saw who I think was probably McClintock coming over the middle linebacker, trying to find a hole in that zone. Faye just didn't read Caleb Harmel in the middle of the field and threw that ball straight to the All-American linebacker.
Going for McClintock, who actually got the block on the punt, but the Tigers get the ball right back. As this will be a carry, trying to bounce it to the outside, but eventually brought down at about the 8-yard line. That's Justin Carmouche with the handle. Ever seen that before? A blocked punt and then an interception on the next play.
And not just an interception, but the ball ending up on the ground yet again. That was a wild, wild sequence, but Trinity trying to calm things down in the shadow of their own end zone right here. Only 4.5 left in the quarter. I think they're trying to at least pick up a first down. Whether they go and get in the end zone or get points on the board, I know they want to try and flip field position back into their favor right here.
There's Carmouche over the middle. Carmouche past the 20, and he has enough for a Tiger first down. So they get more than enough to get out of the shadow of their own goal line. We'll see if they can start a drive here.
This has been a really strong rushing attack for Trinity so far. Of course, last week could hardly get the ball moving at all on the ground, but this week they are just absolutely rolling on the ground so far.
Yeah, and I think it's a variety of attacks and approaches to that, essentially. Obviously, we saw the toss outside the tackles, the runs in between the tackles, that one being a short pitch and catch over the middle to Carmouche, who picked up the first down.
B.J. Stewart hit hard there, but he seems to be unfazed by it. They try the wide receiver screen, and it'll get them about 2.
But we go back to that last play. They're just putting the ball in their weapons' hands really quickly. Using the running backs out of the backfield isn't something we saw a ton of last year, but it was one of the really big elements of this offense in the 2021 season when Tucker Horn was one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And it's something I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit more in depth later in this game, but he did that right there to Carmouche.
Horn going deep for Merrifield, just missed him. Looked like some contact there. That stopped Ryan Merrifield from getting to the ball in time.
Yeah, and there was some separation there, but as you mentioned, Cole, a little bit of contact that just pushed him towards that near sideline just enough so that he couldn't get back on track to run under that ball.
Up 3rd down and 7, Merrifield checks out of the game. Menego in on that same side. We're at 3:04 remaining in this half. Both teams have all 3 timeouts. Horn steps up away from pressure. He's got a lane, and he's got a first down and a lot more. Tucker Horn out of bounds past the 45. And the Tigers move the chains on third down again.
And one of the first things that you always want to do on this type of play is check the backfield. Check around those offensive line. Make sure there's no clothing, no laundry on the field, no yellow flag on that play. Just another great job by those tackles on this Trinity offensive line of driving those ends back towards the Trinity end zone. A huge, huge lane opening up for Tucker Horn right there. And again, just making the smart decision, making the play with his legs, and using the green grass ahead of him.
This will be another handoff. That's Legend Grigsby. And he gets about 3 on first down. Give him 2. Once again, the Tigers have shown their ability to run the ball, whether it's these running backs or Tucker Horn himself.
Yeah, and it's something that's changed over the last couple of years, the Tucker Horn aspect of that particularly. I think that 2021 season, we didn't see a particularly mobile version of him. Last year, he was scrambling, breaking the pocket a ton. Early on this year, it's been a little bit of a mix of both. He's getting the ball out in rhythm when he's in the pocket, but he's making really smart decisions with the ball in his hands outside of it.
Horn over the middle and incomplete, going for his tight end, Matthew Kovacevic, as he couldn't reel it in, and that's probably one he'll want back.
Yeah, that one just right on the money. A little bit like watching Patrick Mahomes throw the ball on Thursday Night Football this week. I'm sure it's a sore subject for some, but a pitch and catch that you really have to have right there. That one probably picking up another first down for Trinity, who's turning this into a bit of a drive. That one hurts momentum and turns this now into a 3rd and long.
Rough week for Kadarius Toney in the opener, as Horn stands in, going deep for Merrifield, just missed him. Throw a little bit too far out of bounds, as Merrifield wouldn't have been able to caught it and get the feet down as well.
And the sun setting here in San Antonio, I'm wondering if the shadows play a little bit of a role in that. You can't see it on this replay, but what we saw in the booth was Ryan Merrifield get a little bit of separation on that near sideline, and then when he turned back, just that action of turning back slowed him down just enough. I think if he could have remained at full speed, he would have run right underneath that and maybe ended up in the end zone, but ultimately Trinity going to punt it away.
Snap, Gaiman gets this one away, a directional kick, as Miller trying to weave for some extra yards, going to be brought down ultimately at the 14. So a punt inside the 20 for Eli Gaiman, as Fay and the Mary Hardin-Baylor offense will have 1:33, all 3 timeouts to work with.
Yeah, and now the question is, what do? You had a couple of really good drives where you moved it down the field. You had the ball in great field position. You're trying to make the offense easier for Fay at the quarterback position, but that last throw was almost a result of trying to make it too simple on him. Just a simple run-pass option. The tight end's going to be open more times than he's not, but that time he just didn't look for Caleb Harmel in the middle of the field. Got to avoid that type of play as much as possible.
Bay throws Jerry Day Jr. in stride. Jerry Day breaks away from a tackle as he's got it to the 40. Brought down at the 35, but a great play for Mary Hardin-Baylor.
Day out of the backfield has been one of their best receiving, Day as a receiver has been one of their best, especially last year. 700 yards through the air.
Bay gonna go deep. That one is incomplete, going for Jerry Day again.
Over 700 yards receiving last year, 7 touchdowns, a touchdown every other game on average. Fantastic work from him, and Mary Hardin-Baylor definitely counting on him to continue that production this season as well.
Jerry Day, one of the 3 receivers from last season that they used frequently, the only one that stayed for this year. But we've already seen Jerry Cephas step into that role. He has some big plays tonight as well. 2nd and 10 coming up after the incompletion. And it looks like that'll be a timeout from Mary Hardin-Baylor. Now they're going to give it to Trinity. That'll be their first. They have 2 remaining.
just before that play got started there, you could really hear the Tiger crowd starting to get loud. This is a highly anticipated game. Again, number 5 versus number 12 in NCAA Division III. We talked with Coach Urban earlier, and he was extremely excited for the crowd to be out here. And even whenever looking across the field at the Mary Hardin-Baylor sideline and the Mary Hardin-Baylor crowd, Coach Harmon mentioned that, you know, Belton is only 2.5 hours away, so it isn't that big of a drive. This is a very well-attended game, especially for the conditions, it being hot, it being in the middle of summer. This is a highly anticipated and highly viewed game as we get ready here for a crucial second down.
Crowd getting on their feet for this one. They want their Tigers to get a stop. Second down and 10 coming up after the Trinity timeout. 1:08 remaining. Mary Hardin-Baylor still has all 3 of their timeouts. Ball spotted at the 36. Here's Fay. Fay towards the sideline. That's going to be caught. It's Roan. And there is a flag in the backfield.
And we're going to have to see this one on the replay. This is going to be a roughing the passer call on Trinity. But it looked like that left tackle at the top of your screen might have kind of blocked him into his own quarterback. This is not at all a good call. Referees should pick that one up and wave it off, but they won't be able to see the replay that we just did. That's an unfortunate break for this Trinity defense.
That looks like Jacob Munoz that was forced into Fay. So Mary Hardin-Baylor getting the call. You can tack on 15 to that last play. They'll spot the ball just outside the 15. Call it the 15 and a half, thereabouts.
The offensive lineman there was Winty. He's allowed a little bit of pressure so far earlier this game. I believe that he was the one that allowed the sack as well that came earlier today.
A minute remaining. This crowd getting into it. Ball at the 15. Fay catches the low snap. Over the middle. That's going to be caught. The ball's free. And who has it?
But we're going to see another roughing the passer penalty on Trinity right here. I think this one a little bit more legit. It might have been Harris Good who was walking away. I'm not sure about that one either. Certainly Fay had the ball away, but Harris Good put his head and shoulder down into the ribs. It wasn't a high hit. The ball hadn't been out for an extended period of time. Trinity, quote unquote, shooting themselves in the foot, but they don't have any control over what the referees are calling right now. And that's 2 penalties in a row that are a little bit questionable and have their backs against the wall. But another thing Coach Urban told us in our meeting this week is that's what these guys love to feast upon. They want to be in this position to prove themselves.
Ball at the 6. Cormier not going to go anywhere. Maybe even lost a yard on that play as this Tigers run defense continues to stand tall.
Yeah, now we're going to see a timeout from Mary Hardin-Baylor as the field has shrunk a little bit. The last possession, last drive that ended in that interception to Harmel was in a similar part of the field. Cormier hasn't been able to really get anything going on the ground. I don't know how much you trust Fay to throw the ball, especially when there's going to be less space on the outside and over the middle. So Coach Harmon doing the veteran coaching move right here, taking a little bit of time to consider this one. A lot of time left in the half, another 2 timeouts after this, and only a 2nd and 8.
Keeping in mind that when Isaac Fay threw his lone interception of the day, it was to Caleb Harmel in this area of the field. Taking the time, wanting to draw something up.
Harmel, of course, one of the defensive leaders of this team. Of course, you were able to see a definitive difference both before and after he was ejected in that game. Of course, thankfully, the appeal to the NCAA was approved and he was reinstated within 48 hours of that 1/2 suspension. But it was definitely a big loss and probably a very big determining factor during that game against St. John's.
Caleb Harmel, the team MVP Last season for the Trinity Tigers, you think it might be Tucker Horn, but nope. Middle linebacker. This 2nd down and goal from the 8. Bay looking around, going for the end zone. Did he get the feet down? Yes, he did. Touchdown. Barry Hardin-Baylor goes the length of the field, and they've cut this to a 1-score game.
We're going to see Miller just put his hands out there, full extension at that near corner. We're going to see if he actually hauled that one in. There's a little bit of a bobble, but I think both of those line judges were focused on the feet, making sure that he got them in. We'll see if we can tell from this angle. Yeah, a little bit of movement there, but probably not enough to tell. A nice job to ultimately secure that one in a really big spot right there with less than 40 seconds left in the half. A huge drive by Mary Hardin-Baylor to go down the field and cut this one to a 1-score game.
Is good by Jack Brewer. Makes this 21-17.
I don't know. I saw the officials' arms out. I think that kick was
No good.
No good. Yeah.
No good.
Yeah. We haven't seen the number go up on the scoreboard, so yeah, that is a kick that is no good. And Bruner missed one last week as well. So the PAT is proving a little bit more difficult here than the field goal so far for Mary Hardin-Baylor this season. And I mean, it is of course a very complicated process. You've got to get a good snap, a good hold, got to hope that the wind isn't blowing. It's probably one of, if not the most complicated 2-3 seconds in this entire game.
Look at the ref signal, broadcasting 101. That kick is no good. The score 21-16. As that will not be Bruner kicking off. It'll be the first-year kicker, Mary Hardin-Baylor, sending this one away. It'll be a short directional kick, and looks like it'll be a touchback. So Tucker Horn and the offense will take over at their own 25. 35 seconds left. Flip the script. What do the Tigers do with this amount of time left?
35 seconds isn't a ton of time on the clock, but with 2 timeouts and previously an All-American kicker, Tyler Huddle, who transferred over, was on the team in 2022, but didn't see a lot of time on the field. He came from St. Olaf, way up north. He was a first-team All-American there. He has a huge leg on him. And this is the type of situation early on in the year, just week 2, where you would love to see in-game pressure. What kind of range can your kicker have?
See if we find out. Learn a lot from this play, as it will be a handoff to legend Grigsby. Grigsby bursts through for the first down. It's a gain of 11, and we'll see if that changes the thought process at all for Trinity.
And it might. I think you always want to see how that first carry goes. That one's going to stop the clock just momentarily so they can move the sticks. Trinity's back at the line quickly. We'll see if they might take a shot here.
They snap the ball with 21 on the clock. Horn steps up. Going to throw over the middle. That's caught. Looked like Grigsby again. That ball actually popped out at the end. He sustained a pretty hard hit as the Mary Hardin-Baylor secondary was all over him.
Yeah, just a really in-between play. There was a linebacker out there on the edge as Tucker Horn was stepping up to scramble. He was in between Grigsby and Horn. He ultimately stepped up. Horn made that read, dumped it over the top to Grigsby, but being at full speed on the run, wasn't able to lead the running back in stride. He had to adjust. By the time that he had his hands on the ball and was turning, that defender met him right where he was, and ultimately that one incomplete.
14 seconds now at their own 35-yard line. As they'll swing it out for B.J. Stewart. Stewart trying to make a move and will get out of bounds to stop the clock with 8 seconds remaining in this half.
Now with 3rd and 5, see if you can't pick up 15, 20 yards right here over the middle. Try and get Tyler Huddle into position to kick something from around 45 yards out. You have 2 timeouts. Doesn't matter where this ball goes, whether it's to the sideline or somewhere right over the middle. we'll see if that's what they ought to do or if Coach Urban's willing to ride this lead into halftime.
Ball at their own 35-yard line. The 8 seconds remaining. And Carmouche will get the carry. Carmouche fighting past midfield. And he's going to be brought down at about the 47. 2 seconds remaining on the clock as Trinity burns a timeout.
Interesting call for the run there. I think that they were expecting Mary Hardin-Baylor to set up for the pass.
And the Tigers do not call timeout. Looked like they had signaled that. But that will end the first half. Trinity 21-16. That's halftime here in San Antonio. An offensive battle would have been 2 defensive struggles in the previous 2 games.
Yeah, it's been incredibly interesting to watch this one unfold. Not a ton of opposition or resistance from this Mary Hardin-Baylor defense. Tucker Horn and this offense able to really move things, just march down the field at will in that first half. We saw a couple of touchdowns in that opening quarter. Mary Hardin-Baylor doing a little bit better in regards to the field position game in the second quarter, but that offense was really starting to click, and I think that sparked the defense just enough. There were a couple of plays, a couple of penalties specifically right at the end of that Mary Hardin-Baylor drive, that most recent one that ended in a touchdown, that didn't help Trinity out at all. A couple of questionable roughing the passer calls, and it's playing a big part as to why this one's 21-16 right now.
The penalties, of course, for Trinity, can't control them. We saw them on the broadcast, we saw them on the replays. Not really totally agreeing with them, but the Mary Hardin-Baylor penalties, especially the one that allowed the short kickoff for the later touchdown, just shooting themselves in the foot is something that Coach Harmon said was extremely uncharacteristic both this week and also last week. Going into the next half, Mary Hardin-Baylor really needs to focus on cleaning their game up, avoiding mistakes, obviously avoiding turnovers and giving Trinity the ball like we saw a couple of times earlier, but also just avoiding silly mistakes like personal foul penalties, things of that nature that are 100% within their control.
21-16. The Tigers lead in what could be argued as the game of the week in Division III football. Certainly living up to it, as we'll be back for the third quarter in a bit. And the sun's starting to set here in San Antonio. We're about ready to kick off the second half. Good first half that saw the Trinity Tigers with a 21-16 lead. So guys, good half of football. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, I think the one thing that stood out above all else was the ability for this Trinity team to establish themselves on the ground. Over 100 yards for the Tigers, all net gains across the board from their different rushing trio. Mary Hardin-Baylor in the positive this week after struggling last week, but it's hard to talk about this offense without talking about Tucker Horn, who was really, really good in that first half. 14 of 21, 155 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Can't ask for much more from your starting quarterback. But on the other side, Isaac Faye holding his own in this matchup. 13 of 18, 171 yards himself, and that 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio you can see at the bottom of your screen. But that interception, a costly one coming in the red zone. Tucker Horn taking care of the ball. This Trinity offense as a whole taking care of a ball to this point. Something they're going to need to look to expand on and continue in this second half. But talking about Tucker Horn, he's been great tonight. He was absolutely fantastic last week against St. John's. He exited that game at times dealing with some injury, dealing with some cramping. But despite the fact that he didn't play a full 4 quarters, he finished 28 of 33. That's a completion percentage of 85%, threw for over 350 yards and another 2 touchdowns in that game against a top 10 St. John's squad. So this is the Tucker Horn of old, the Tucker Horn that we saw back in 2021. We talked about it, just alluded to it briefly on the broadcast tonight. Back in 2021, Tucker Horn had an interception to touchdown ratio, about 30 touchdowns, a little bit over that, to just 3 interceptions on the year. Those numbers were a little worse last year, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's a pretty big jump year over year, but we talked about the fact that he was a little bit more mobile. It's just a question of the decision-making outside of the pocket. So far this year, once he's broken it, he's kept his eyes downfield, but he hasn't forced the ball anywhere, and he's just taken the green grass in front of him when it's given to him, when it's all he has. It's exactly what he needs to do. Dropping back, getting the ball out in rhythm, on time, hitting his receivers in stride is really where he's at his best, and that's what we've seen to start the 2023 season.
And after talking about that, could we just talk about how absolutely fantastic it is right now? Sun's starting to go down. It's going to get cooler. Lights are starting to come on. This is primetime Saturday night college football at its finest right here. Packed house here at Trinity Stadium. It is a gorgeous night to play football, maybe a little bit warm, but it is going to be a fantastic second half to this game for sure, if the first half is anything to go off of.
Yeah, all these players out of the sun. Certainly 97, a bit warm still, Caleb, as you mentioned, but I think they'll be happy to have a little bit of consistency as the light comes on, not having to deal with the shadows on the field, not having to deal with the heat of playing in the direct sunlight. I'm sure that turf is going to stay nice and warm for them, but they're going to get set to kick things off here to start the second half after Mary Hardin-Baylor won the coin toss in the first half and deferred.
And of course, with the heat, hopefully that'll result in a little bit less dehydration issues as well, because dehydration was a big issue for Trinity last week. Of course, a few players, mainly on the defense, but a few players across the team ended up getting some stomach bug issues, some kind of illness issues, leading to some dehydration, some cramping. But so far today, it appears that everything is going well for the Tigers.
Trinity lost both corners in the loss last week. Trey King and Trey Green both leaving that game. Stomach issues, dehydration issues. We haven't seen any of that so far. May it continue as Huddle gets this second half underway. It's a pretty short kick. It's going to bounce short of the 20. It'll be brought back by Mary Hardin-Baylor, making a cut up to the 29-yard line. That's Matthew Jackson. And a good return for the Crusaders.
We talked briefly at the half. We didn't mention it in the open right there, but the wind is blowing from south to north, so in the direction that Tyler Huddle was kicking right there. We talked already about the touchbacks that he's had this season, but that one not coming anywhere close. Ultimately, Mary Hardin-Baylor going to end up with their best starting field position of the evening, trying to draw a little bit closer, maybe even pull ahead here to start the third quarter.
Bay escapes, throws over the middle. That pass is caught. So a good start to the half for UMHB. That's Jerry Cephas making the reception at the 42-yard line.
And Faye doing a nice job breaking the pocket on that last play, keeping his eyes downfield nonetheless. Very impressive thing from a young, more inexperienced quarterback. Finds his receiver in space, delivers a strike between the numbers. A good play out of the half for Mary Hardin-Baylor, but another snap
Faye
on
drops
the ground.
The snap. Able to pick it up again. That's the second time something like that's happened where Faye's had to scramble and recover a fumble. Fortunately for Mary Hardin-Baylor, he's able to recover it.
And fortunately, they're on two fronts for Mary Hardin-Baylor as well, because that was number 59, I believe, Ethan Rackman, who actually ended up rolling over Faye, who was down there on the ground. So very lucky, not only to avoid a turnover, but also to avoid an injury to an already pretty stretched thin quarterback position.
Cormier gonna go nowhere. The Tigers in to make the play as this rushing defense continues to stand as tall as ever.
And just like that, a huge play on first down to start the half. Faye breaking the pocket, finding his receiver for a nice gain on first down to pick up another. But just like that, shooting themselves in the foot, a snap on the ground, a negative play, and you're back behind the sticks, a long third down here.
TJ Scannell getting the tackle in at linebacker with James O'Gunran out of this game. Third and long. Faye under some pressure. He's going to have to get away. Going to throw it away. And incomplete. There is a flag in the backfield.
That's going to be holding there. I believe that is going to be on Kyle Winty. He's allowed a couple of pressures and hits on Faye so far tonight, and that is going to be a huge blow for Mary Hardin-Baylor there. Of course, the incomplete pass, but still, definitely not what they wanted.
Yeah, and again, it was Carson Bird from that right end position. He's getting upfield just enough, extending the arms to create the separation between himself and that left tackle for Mary Hardin-Baylor, and then he just comes back inside underneath. That was Wilkerson who just grabbed him to try and slow him down. He already had one sack on the evening and almost got another there.
Punt away, and it's not a great one. We'll see where the referees say it went out of bounds, as they are going to mark this one right at midfield. So great starting field position for the Tigers as the punt goes askew.
Yeah, Cole, and something that we talked about already a little bit was the struggles that this team had last week with snapping on special teams. It's Abraham Hernandez, a first year on this Mary Hardin-Baylor roster, who's doing the long snapping duties. A couple of those bounced into the punter, led to blocks, led to the kick, just not ultimately getting away cleanly. Here today, we've seen a couple of low snaps for the offense, and that's another true freshman who's in there, Elijah Mankins, who's put this team behind the sticks a couple of times. And now Trinity, after Mary Hardin-Baylor had that nice gain on first down to come out and start the second half, has the field position advantage again.
Something that Coach Urban talks about so much, winning the field position battle just as good as a turnover. You can have a good play on special teams. That first down run goes nowhere, so it'll bring up 2nd down and 11 for Trinity. Horn. Gonna dump it off. It's Carmouche. Carmouche has some space, tries to cut back inside, and maybe gets 3 out of that. It'll be 3rd and long coming up for the Tigers.
But to start this second half, a nice job on first down to stalemate the run from this Mary Hardin-Baylor defensive front. Tucker Horn with plenty of time dropping back, ultimately having to check it down. But these linebackers, Durand Hill, Johnny Smith-Ryder, showing their speed and versatility from the middle of the field, getting out into coverage on the outside and making the tackle.
3rd and 8. Horn steps up. He's going to be brought down from behind. Miles Terry gets the sack for the Crusaders, and their defense gets a much-needed stop.
Yeah, a huge answer from Mary Hardin-Baylor right there. You're going to see it again on the replay at the top of the screen. Just wins with speed over the top. Does a good job not being driven back towards Trinity's end zone. A nice curl, keeping his hips low, and stays in pursuit of Tucker Horn, who wasn't aware that he was still on his backside.
Good job hanging on to the football by Tucker Horn. It'll send Eli Gaiman out to punt. He gets this one away. Kick up the middle. Miller bringing it back past the 15 to about the 16, and that is where UMHB will take over.
And that's one of the few times that Trinity has been turned away on 3rd down. In the first half, they were 8 of 10 on 3rd down conversions. Unfortunately, unable to get it here, starting out 0 for 1 here in the second half, but hoping to turn that around.
We talked about last week, Trinity 10 of 11 on 3rd down to start that game against St. John's, 8 for 10 to start this one. 3rd down has been a real strength for this Tigers offense, but it's the UMHB offense on the field now. They have it at their own 16. Fake to Cormier. An incomplete, a dangerous throw. Harmel almost had his second pick of the night, as it looked like that one just slipped out of his hand.
Yeah, and a little bit of indecisiveness right there. I think he had one of his options. He was planning on delivering that throw, and at the last second, he tried to pull it back just a bit. And he's lucky that one of those linebackers wasn't underneath to pick that one off.
I think you're right. That's looked like what happened. Trying to pull that ball back. UMHB fortunate that that wasn't another disaster. 2nd and 10 from their own 15. Fake quickly. That's going to be caught by McClintock. McClintock still up, barreling forward, and he might have the first down for his efforts. They will give him the first down. Gain of 11 for McClintock.
Yeah, and McClintock, a big tight end, 6'5", 240, catches that one well short of the sticks. And just does everything he can to barrel forward and pick up the first down for the Crusaders right there.
Some trickery as that ball is taken up the middle by Cormier. And it'll bring up 2nd down for UMHB.
Yeah, just a little draw play right there. Cormier lined up to the right of Fay. And already we've seen the quarterback roll out a couple of times to start this half. But it looks like there's an injured Tiger down on the field. So we will have a stoppage in play. It was Harris Good who was in pursuit and ultimately brought Fay down right there.
Harris Good down on the field as we'll step away. And welcome back after that quick break on Tiger Network. Harris Good able to walk off the field under his own power. As this will bring up 2nd down and 8. Fay over the middle, intercepted again! Caleb Harmel is second of the game! Harmel down the sideline, forced out of bounds! And the Tigers collect their 2nd turnover of the night, both by way of number 21.
Cole, this is not something we've ever talked about before, but did you know Caleb Harmel played quarterback when he was in high school?
I did not.
He did, and it just shows every time he steps foot out on the football field, I get reminded of the fact he has one of the highest IQs of any football player on this roster, and it's exactly why this coaching staff wanted him. He had a number of offers. He had offers to play quarterback at the collegiate level, but Trinity wanted him to play a position he had never played before because he has this type of athleticism, this type of ability, leaping up to snag that one high in the air and giving the Tigers great field position again.
Horn flips to Hutchison. Hutchison breaks a tackle, stays on his feet, eventually hit out of bounds at the 10. But a good start to the drive for Trinity as they get the first down.
And what a huge momentum swing. Caleb Harmel making a massive play on defense right there. But again, we're seeing Tucker Horn clicking on all cylinders, just taking what the defense is giving him, checking it down to Hutchison, his running back right there, picking up another first down and getting Trinity down to just about the 10-yard line.
1st and 10. Give to Hutchison. Hutchison breaks.
Season. And honestly, I feel like his pass as a quarterback, as you mentioned, Luke, may have helped contribute to sort of being able to see and sort of read the field.
2nd and 10 after the Hutchison run. Trinity trying to capitalize in the red zone. As whistle blows before the snap. And that'll be a false start on the Tigers, so bump them back 5 yards.
I think that one might have been a delay of game. A little bit difficult to tell as the sun's going down here in San Antonio. Can't quite see the referees on the field from the booth. But either way, the Tigers will be set back just 5 yards. And maybe a positive in this area of the field. Gives you a little bit more space to work with. Still in the red zone, though.
So bump them back 5 after the delay of game. I think you're right, Luke. That looked like the hand signal the ref gave. Horn. Pressure up the middle, floats it for the end zone, but it's going to be a little far. And there will be a flag. Contact in the end zone. And this could be a tough one for Mary Hardin-Baylor.
Yeah, this one kind of on the verge of being uncatchable. It sailed, I don't think all the way out of the back of the end zone, but it landed maybe right around that boundary. There was a little bit of contact, certainly right around the goal line, but Tucker Horn was forced to get that one out really early. We're going to see what the officials rule, whether they wave this one off, but it looks like that's a pass interference call, and Trinity's starting to march down towards that goal line just a little bit more.
You mentioned Tucker having to get that ball out pretty quickly. He took a pretty good shot there, getting thrown down to the ground almost immediately after after releasing that ball. Considering some of the plays earlier on in the first half, surprised that it didn't have a flag back in the pocket as well.
Durand Hill applying the pressure, one of the best defenders UMHB has at middle linebacker. 1st down and goal for the Tigers. It's a give. Grigsby and going nowhere. It looked like some miscommunication on that handoff.
Yeah, certainly a little bit of confusion. Grigsby didn't hit the hole as hard as he typically does. We'll see the replay. Tucker Horn having to kind of extend his arms right there. But by that point in time, a ton of penetration from that Mary Hardin-Baylor front. So Trinity will operate now at the 5-yard line.
1st and goal after the loss of yardage on the Grigsby carry. Still with the ball in the red zone. Tigers have been a very successful red zone team. Horn, pressure for the end zone, tipped in the air and incomplete, but there is another flag in the end zone. And it looks like this one's going to go on Mary Hardin-Baylor as well.
Yeah, we're going to have to see the replay of this one as well. I think they're going to come just into the picture at the top of your screen. Maybe a little bit of early contact. It looked like it was number 7, Dorian Williams, who was in defense right there. Maybe arrived just a little bit early, but certainly had that arm draped over the front in order to break that one up. I think he just got called for the contact being on the back of the offensive player.
So it'll be half the distance to the goal after the pass interference in the end zone. 1st and goal for Trinity. Horn looks to throw. Going to the back of the end zone, incomplete. Going for Carter's self in the back of the end zone. And it'll bring up 2nd and goal for the Tigers.
Yeah, and Horn held this ball just a little bit longer than I expected him to. Carmouche was open right in the near corner of the end zone. That defender didn't commit one way or the other. Horn went with the ball at the back of the end zone, which is a little bit elevated. I think you want to see him maybe roll out just a little bit further, apply pressure, make that defender commit. It was Trayshawn Adams that was defending it on that far side of the end zone. So ultimately a good outcome for the Crusaders.
2nd and goal for the 2. Horn to the end zone, incomplete again. That time looked like he was going for Will Taylor. And it'll bring up 3rd and goal.
A lot of contact there by, that looks to be Amari Frazier. The cornerback there for Mary Hardin-Baylor. A lot of contact there on the reception, but the officials ruled that it was uncatchable, just a bit too far behind the receiver there on that throw by Horn.
Trinity scoring on 80% of its possessions in the red zone. Last season, it was about middle of Division III football. Horn quickly to the end zone, incomplete. Going for Carter's self. And now 4th and goal coming up for the Tigers.
Yeah, and with a 5-point lead already in hand, Coach Urban going to elect to send the field goal unit out there. Can't fault him for this decision. An interesting one, though, considering that it's going to be Eli Gaiman who lines up to take the kick. We mentioned the fact that Tyler Weddle's last one was a little bit shorter than we were used to. He hobbled off the field a little bit.
So Gaiman to kick this field goal. Kick is up and hits the upright. No good. Eli Gaiman, the punter, having to come in to kick the field goal. Misses it off that right upright as there is a flag on the field. Looks like it'll be after the play, though.
And such a whirlwind on that one play that we saw in the first half. Block punt, interception by Harmel, fumble by Harmel on the same play. This game as a whole is really starting to trend in that direction. A nice start to this half from Mary Hardin-Baylor. A good answer from Caleb Harmel to intercept his 2nd ball of the game, but that one certainly swings things back in favor of Mary Hardin-Baylor a little bit, and this penalty is not going to help anything as the officials are going to march back towards the Trinity end zone, and it's going to get Mary Hardin-Baylor out of the shadow of their own and give them pretty good field position as this one comes all the way out to the 35-yard line.
Looked to be a personal foul on Trinity after the play. So how things have changed for Mary Hardin-Baylor. Trinity offense scored on its first 3 possessions, have yet to score since. And what an opportunity for Isaac Faye in this offense.
And this is exactly what we were looking forward to. This is a playoff atmosphere type game, crowd getting into it.
1st down and 10. They give to Miller. Miller, decent gain on 1st down. They give him about 4. As you would imagine, this is a pretty important possession for Mary Hardin-Baylor.
Certainly, and we see both running backs in the game on that last play. They're going to remain in there, and I think this is where they've gotten their best offense. Miller's been a little bit more successful in the ball, with the ball in his hands, but I think a big part of that is the fact that Cormier's back there blocking for him as well.
Good carry for Miller again. He tried to get to the outside, not going to get too far, and it'll bring up third down. So Trinity one play away from getting out of this.
I think it was Harmel again stretching the field east to west, not allowing Miller to turn up and gain any yardage on that one. So it's going to be back to a 3rd and 5, and it's really been when Fay has gotten the ball into Cephas's hands, into Jerry Day Jr.'s hands quickly.
Crowd making noise on 3rd and 5. Fay has time. Rolling out, and he's going to go down!
And what closing speed right there. That was number 26, TJ Scannell, a backup linebacker who just came downhill with a full head of steam. Watch this one. That's 24, Ryan Arnold, who gets swung inside. But Scannell, I just don't think Fay saw him coming all along. He kept his eyes on the quarterback, locked in. A great wrap-up and a huge sack in that 3rd and 5 spot for this Trinity defense.
You mentioned the sophomore backup there. Scannell is in for James O'Gunran, who is out for this game. Was dressed in street clothes during pregame warm-up, did not suit up. And what a play by the backup here.
And this one's going to be blown dead. And it'll be an illegal formation, it looks like, on Mary Hardin-Baylor, so that'll back them up 5, and they'll get another chance to get this one away.
But we did see that ball get snapped, and it was Bruner back there to punt it, but he kind of rolled out almost as if he had the intention to throw it.
That is what it looked like.
It's just that none of those up-backs, none of those linemen went out for a pass because the whistle had been blown, so we'll have to see what happens here.
So Bruner to punt. And he will punt it. It is blocked. Cannon Starkey getting in there and making the play. And just like that, the Tigers have it in the red zone once again.
And momentum just back and forth, back and forth. It was a huge play by Scannell, come up and get that sack, and just great penetration. Again, it was Bruner who took the snap. It was a pretty good one, but he was rolling out to his right. Not a ton of urgency to get this one kicked. And the Tigers came, brought full pressure right here, and they got home on full extension.
That was, I believe, Cade Rabson, the senior out of the Woodlands, Texas, who managed to get that ball. Fantastic motor here by the Tigers with the ball down now at the 14-yard line of Mary Hardin-Baylor.
Good correction, Caleb. It was Cade Rabson in there. Horn off play action to the end zone. Caught for the touchdown! Caleb Crawford with the extension, and just like that, Trinity's up by 2 scores again.
And I was about to say, this time they have to take advantage. We've seen them drive the ball down the field a couple of times. That last possession, to have some players in both the near and far corners of the end zone and ultimately not even come away with 3 as they missed that kick off the upright is really tough. But Caleb Crawford with great hands, great extension, ensures that that's not the case on this drive.
Tyler Huddle back in the game to kick this extra point. Up and right down the middle. So the Tigers capitalize off the blocked punt. Another special teams error by Mary Hardin-Baylor, the second blocked punt we've seen on either side. As this game, the twists and turns, the momentum switches, it all just continues, and we still have 5 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah, and what we've seen starting to develop is just the lack of attention to details, right? Fay is kind of just going through the motions on some of these throws. It seems like that's what happened. Just throwing it straight to the middle linebacker. I think you expect that guy to maybe bite on the run fake, but Caleb Harmel's a seasoned vet. You have to scan the middle of the field, make sure that he did bite before you deliver those throws. And then that last punt block, as you mentioned, I think maybe that delay of game, or I guess it was an illegal formation that sent him back a couple yards. That disrupts things, but you need to make sure that your cadence is right, that you're getting the ball off your foot under 3 or 4 seconds. Otherwise, teams are going to come, and more often than not, if you give them that long, they're going to get some guys to get home.
Huddle ready to go and send it back to Mary Hardin-Baylor. We'll see how they respond offensively. Good deep kick, and that'll go into the end zone for the touchback.
But Huddle is still a little bit hobbled. We mentioned that he came off as Eli Gaiman was the one to attempt the field goal a couple of possessions ago.
No, you can't see it right now on your screen, but Huddle struggling to get off the field, hopping with one leg. Put everything he had into that kickoff, and based on what we're seeing on the sideline, you got to wonder if he's going to be back in this game and whether it's going to be Eli Gaiman kicking field goals and extra points the rest of the way.
We'll certainly be paying attention to that one. But if this Trinity defense can do its job, it's back up to a two-possession game. Hopefully that he won't need to come back into this one.
That's TJ Roan on the reception. Took a big hit from Mac Douglas in coverage, but able to hang on at around the 45, and it's a good start to the UMHB drive.
And again, we've seen it. It's been here and there, but this pocket can give time for Fay. He's shown off his arm strength, hitting guys in stride over the middle. That's what he did to Roan right there. And when he gets those throws in rhythm, gets this offense going, I think that's when this offensive line's been most successful of getting push, as that was a 9-yard carry on first down right there for Cormier. And now you're in a great position in a 2nd and 1 that really opens your playbook up for you right around midfield.
Kenneth Miller Jr. checks into the game at running back. This crowd getting into it. Ball spotted at their own 49. Bay gives it to Miller. Miller makes a cut, and Miller has a good run. Miller going to be brought down at about the 34. And just like that, UMHB, strong few plays in a row, and they have it inside the 35.
And we've seen Cormier struggle a little bit tonight. He struggled last week in the opener, but Miller has been great. And it's really been because of his change of pace, his ability to put his foot in the ground and change direction. This defensive box for Trinity is doing a great job of getting penetration, but he's just had great vision all night. He's finding his way through, and then he has great bursts once he gets past that first line of defense.
Flag was thrown after the play, so we'll see what that is.
It's going to be Jeremy Cephas, looks like, trying to figure out who he was going after. I believe it was Cephas and King who were fighting after that play. Cephas now going off. Not sure where King went off to, but there was a lot of extracurricular after that play, and that is going to be a costly 15-yard penalty there for Mary Hardin-Baylor.
But goes against UMHB. King and Cephas going at it, but UMHB is going to get the penalty. What does a setback like that do on such a strong drive?
I mean, it just totally disrupts rhythm, and that's exactly what we just talked about. It was the big throw that led into a big chunk run, but then that totally sets you back, and it disrupts that rhythm. And on top of that, it took Cephas and King both off the field. He's been one of the best weapons for Faye tonight, and that's the last thing you want, is to make an unexperienced quarterback's job even more difficult.
Been matched up against each other all night. Here is Faye. Faye under some pressure. Faye gonna run, and he's gonna be brought down. The fans here wanted a holding call, but no flag is thrown. It'll be 2nd down.
Yeah, and more often than not, when you see a play go on for this long, you're going to see it right there. Again, at the top of the screen, it's that matchup between left tackle and defensive end. It's Zach Wilkerson, who's already been called for a hold against Carson Bird. They look to have him wrapped up again there. The referees just happened to miss it. But even then, it's going to be a big play here.
That was 2nd down. It's now 3rd down and 21. And a big one for UMHB. Faye, under pressure, fires. It's incomplete. Roan looked like he was going to reel it in with one hand for a second. It would have been an incredible catch, but unable to. And it'll send out the punting team for Mary Hardin-Baylor.
And again, a good pocket. You're going to see Munoz just try and keep contained. He hits his receiver in stride right there, and I'm not entirely sure what happened for Roan on that one. He got one hand on it. It didn't look like he had to overextend. you really got to help out your quarterback, help out your team as a whole. Because at that point, maybe you're thinking about going for it on a 4th down.
New punter into the game. It's freshman Edwin Lopez, a directional kick as it takes a Trinity bounce past the 20 at about the 21. So we've seen some changes on special teams. They didn't make any changes from the River Falls game into this one, but mid-game they're starting to incorporate Edwin Lopez into some of these plays.
Yeah, and I think it's just what Mary Hardin-Baylor has been forced into. Certainly you don't want to be forced to throw a freshman out there, but the performances that we've seen from some of the guys on this special teams unit has just called for it at the end of the day.
Bruner has made a field goal from 30 yards, but has also missed an extra point and had a punt blocked. Tucker Horn and the Tigers will start at their own 20. It's the give, and lunging forward is Johnny Milo. We've seen him into the game a few times. He's Trinity's 4th running back that they really like to work in.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have a running back trio here at Trinity University. So to see a 4th guy come, get into the mix every now and again, it's a little bit of a surprise, but I'm sure the more we see him, the more we're going to adjust to his game, and I'm sure we're going to see that he has something a little bit different to offer than Winston Hutchison, Legend Grigsby, and of course Justin Carmouche.
Milo stays into the game on 2nd down and 7, under 2 minutes remaining in the 3rd quarter. Horn rolls out. Now he's going to run. Horn to about the 30, slides down at the 32, and we'll see where they mark him, close to the 1st down marker. It'll depend on where they spot the football.
We're going to see Tucker Horn just breaking the pocket again, doing a lot of scrambling. It's a good job by number 65. That's the 2nd year Connor Keel playing right tackle. He just stays engaged enough to put pressure on that defender, allows Tucker Horn to operate around that, and ultimately pick up some yardage.
They do give Horn the 1st down, even though he slid. Remember, it's not where you end your slide where you get marked. It's where you begin it. 1st down for Trinity. It's Milo with the carry. Milo, a good run right up the middle. He gets about 4 or 5 on that one.
Yeah, and Milo, as he was hitting the hole right there, I take notice of the fact that he really did what he could to protect the football, wrapping it up with both hands. It's going to be especially important as the clock winds under 1 minute here in the 3rd quarter. Still in their own territory, just taking care of the ball the rest of the way, going to be huge for these Tigers.
2nd down and 4. The Trinity offense. As this is another carry. And going to be brought down short of the 1st down marker. Milo again. They continue to work him in. And we'll see if that'll be the last play of the quarter or not.
Yeah, and it looks like you're right about that. Coach Urban and this offense in no rush to get another play run, especially when you just picked up a 1st down. So they'll have a fresh set as they beckon in the 4th quarter right here in San Antonio.
4th quarter coming up at Trinity University. The Tigers fans in attendance loving what they're seeing. It's 28-16 Trinity as we'll take a break on Tiger Network. And welcome back to a bird's eye view. Fourth quarter in Trinity University. The Tigers up 28-16. A rematch of back-to-back years these two teams have met in the playoffs. UMHB winning both times. As Milo gets the handle there. Milo fighting ahead for some extra yardage on first down.
And interesting to see Milo still in the game after even a little bit of a break at the quarter. We've seen this rotation kind of go all the way through, and I think once all guys in that running back trio have had the opportunity to get their feet wet a little bit, we've seen Milo break in. This is the second time that he's been used, so both drives that he's been in there, it's been pretty exclusively him as the feature back.
Here's another give to Milo. Milo making a cut and a good run for Johnny Milo. As that'll make this a third and much more manageable for the Tigers, who are trying to run down as much clock as they can.
Yeah, and another really good run. That's left tackle John Hughes battling at the top of the screen. Not able to create a hole, but again, staying engaged with the defender is doing just enough to allow Milo to break that one to the outside and get upfield.
Hughes missed 6 games to injury last season. That's such a key piece in this Tigers offense. They have it at the 47. Horn will throw on third down. Over the middle, it's caught by Hutchison. He lost it at the end, understandably. A huge hit applied by the Mary Hardin-Baylor defense.
And they're going to rule that an incomplete pass, looks like, as we get a replay of it here.
Looks like it was Durand Hill coming up to make that stop and jar that ball loose, but Tucker Horn maybe selling that one all the way, or I guess forecasting that one, I should say. He had his eyes locked on his running back all the way out of the backfield. Durand Hill, not Durand Hill on the hit on that one.
That was Omari Frazier applying the hit, but Durand Hill in the area. 2 cornerstones of this UMHB defense. Omari Frazier forced a fumble in the playoff game last year here at the stadium as Gaiman gets this one away. A good deep kick as Miller takes it past the 20, going to be brought down at about the 24. That is where the Mary Hardin-Baylor offense will take over. Still down 2 scores with work to do. 13-16 in the fourth quarter to work with.
Yeah, a lot of time left here in San Antonio. And for us who are familiar with this Trinity team, we know how things can turn around really quickly. This is a team that's certainly not going to be comfortable with a 2-score lead. They want to force the Crusaders back towards their own end zone right here, create good field position, allow the offense to get back on the field and get some more points on the board to extend this lead.
It's about the point last week where Caleb Harmel was ejected and everything turned around. Fay going deep, incomplete. Had Jerry Day Jr. in stride, just missed him, and that could have been huge for the Crew.
We're going to have to see the replay of this one. Again, it's Cephas and Trey King battling at the bottom of the screen. You can see at the start of the replay, Trey King stumbling a little bit. That was after Cephas was already by him. Fay missing a huge play right there. Just an unfortunate outcome. That was Jerry Day Jr. who was at the bottom of the screen, who came bursting off the line and gained some ground past the Trinity quarterback as we have another injury here in San Antonio.
That looks like it's Harris Good, once again needing medical attention, as he is able to get off the field, not putting any pressure on that leg. We certainly hope that Harris Good is okay, such a key part of this Tigers defense. He plays through so much.
Yeah, an absolute warrior out there on the field. He's a guy that really maybe goes a bit overboard with the face paint. You might be able to see it in that shot. But he is a guy that you don't want to line up across as an offensive lineman because he is absolutely relentless, and we've seen him play through a lot the past 2 years.
That pass from Fay, incomplete. Going for his back, Cormier. That's not something we see very much from UMHB. Trying to throw to the running backs out of the backfield. It'll bring up 3rd and 10.
Injuries are really starting to pile up for both teams. Of course, we do know kind of the revolving door kind of quarterbacks, not by choice, but by injury, really. Faye being the 3rd-string wide receiver here, and UMHB really starting to miss longtime starter Kyle King, who graduated last year.
3rd down. Faye gonna go down, but there is a flag in the backfield. But fortunately for Tigers fans, I don't think this is gonna be a roughing the passer as Mac Douglas was held.
Yeah, and again, it was that left tackle for this Mary Hardin-Baylor offensive line. That's Zach Wilkerson, whose number we have called a lot this evening. And the referee does confirm that that's the case. Just too much speed and pressure off the edge. That time, number 45, Max Shilstone, getting home for the sack. But you see the hold right there as Mac Douglas was going down. Shilstone, who has gotten a little bit of usage over the last 2 years as he's stepped into some of the vacated roles due to injury. This is a great unit, 1 through 7, at that starting line, but there's a ton of depth in this defensive room as well.
That one nearly blocked as Lopez does get it away. B.J. Stewart, fair catch. And Trinity will take it at the 42-yard line. That defense gets the stop. Harris Good out, Shilstone in. Like Harris Good never left.
Yeah, it's just a lot of guys stepping in and continuing to hold their own. I think that's where a lot of programs can separate themselves at this level. Both of these teams over the past couple of years have been in the upper echelon of Division III football. Both of them starting the year off ranked in the top 10, and it's because you have a ton of guys that are interchangeable. I think there's been a lot of turnover. Caleb, you mentioned Kyle King, who they lost at the quarterback position. He's a guy that threw for 7,000 yards and contributed 100 total touchdowns in his career. And that's just not a guy that you can replace as quickly as some positions like defensive line or wide receiver for that matter.
Milo driven back all the way inside his own 30, but forward progress will have the football right around the line of scrimmage. It'll be 2nd down.
And going back to King, Coach Harmon was incredibly complimentary of him during our phone call. Extremely charismatic and just an incredible player. Mary Hardin-Baylor definitely kind of missing him in a season where looking for his replacement has kind of backfired, honestly.
It's certainly going to take a little bit of time to replace a guy that has that kind of impact on your program.
Horn gonna take a seat. Able to escape the initial 3 pressures, but Mary Hardin-Baylor eventually able to hit home, and it'll be 3rd down and long.
Yeah, and Tucker Horn ultimately not having anything right there. Didn't want to extend this play any further and take a hit that wasn't going to be entirely necessary. I think you want to see him throw that ball away, but gets down on the ground, takes out of the picture an unnecessary hit from a defensive lineman that's barreling down on him, and lives to see another snap in a game where, again, the clock continues to run in the 4th quarter.
3rd and 20 coming up for the Tigers. Horn looking to run, it looked like, but he's going to be brought down behind the line of scrimmage. So that'll go down as another Mary Hardin-Baylor sack, and the Tigers will be forced to punt the football.
I think you're right. He looked to run rather quickly on that one. I would say that's a designed quarterback draw right there on a 3rd and really long. I think the Tiger offense was hoping that the Crusaders would drop a little bit more and that hopefully the middle of the field would open up for Tucker Horn to scramble and maybe not pick up that 1st down, but make this punt one that would pin the Crusaders back a little bit deeper.
Gaiman gets this one away. It's a long kick as Miller reaching back to receive it past the 30, ultimately knocked out of bounds at the 35, and that's where Crusaders will take over, down 28-16.
And a lower line drive kick by Gaiman right there. Miller doing a nice job. He's fielded a couple, but you see the block, the the engagement right there. That's number 19, Caleb Crawford, one of your starting wide receivers. It's kind of the philosophy of this Trinity coaching staff that you want your best players out there as much as possible to impact the game as often as possible. Much like Miller was returning that kick right there, Crawford covering on a punt.
First down. Bay quickly, it's caught. And hit down at about the first down marker. That'll be Matthew Jackson and Mary Hardin-Baylor, 6. First down at the 47. They'll give to Cormier. Cormier powering ahead, but not going to get very many yards. Only a gain of 2 as he's been bottled up all night.
Yeah, and even on that one, seemed like the offensive line had a little more push, maybe a hole opened up, but whoever it was filling from the Trinity secondary did a good job of hitting Cormier low, stopping all of his momentum, and then some of those Trinity teammates came in to finish the job.
Matthew Jackson again hit past the first down marker as Mary Hardin-Baylor has another first down. That one about at the 40-yard line. Mary Hardin-Baylor getting to the hurry-up with nearly 9.5 minutes to go in this game.
Yeah, and a nice play right there for Mary Hardin-Baylor to pick up that first down. I think they're likely going to have to go to the air more often than not as they have trips to the near side of the field here.
Bay under some pressure, throwing underneath, and that's going to be incomplete. Going for Cormier out of the backfield, it was Mac Douglas in coverage to knock it away.
And Douglas in this second half has just been all over the place, covering a ton of ground. We mentioned him earlier as someone that this defensive unit likes to walk down and bring off the edge. We saw that holding call go against him when he was rushing the passer, and that time doing a nice job of getting out to the flat in coverage.
2nd and 10 after the incompletion, 9:09 on the clock. Give to Miller, Miller tripped up. And fortunately for Trinity, it looked like he lost his footing. That could have been a big run.
Yeah, and I think that was, again, TJ Scannell, who made a really big play earlier on the sack of Fay. He's the one that came up and maybe just nicked Miller. I think he got his foot from behind. Other than that, Miller had a full head of steam, but instead a 3rd and medium, 3rd and longer here.
It'll be 3rd and 7. Good call, Luke. TJ Scannell coming in and getting the shoelace tackle. 8:30 remaining in the 4th quarter. Down at the Trinity 39. Fay gonna be brought down. No, escapes but loses the football. It's on the ground and it looks like the Tigers are gonna fall on it. Or no, they are not. Jacob Munoz looked like he had a clear shot to recover that fumble, but little did we see a Mary Hardin-Baylor player able to recover the fumble and avoid disaster.
And again, TJ Scannell making his presence felt. He's someone that's been in the game all evening long, but due to an injury, he stepped into that starting role. So again, this defensive unit having guys to step up and make an impact been huge here this evening.
Punt away. It'll be a short one, and Stewart will fall down to make the catch at about the 15. 7:41 remaining.
We've got a flag down at about the 17-yard line. Not sure.
And that makes sense. It looked like Stewart was maybe interfered with on that catch. We'll see if that'll be the call.
It looks like it's a little closer to the middle of the field. I'm not sure what the referees are discussing or if they even are discussing at this point. But now they'll come together closer to the 50 and talk about this.
We've actually got 2 flags down. One of them is down at about the 4-yard line outside of the hash.
We'll listen in.
Let's see what the calls are. Looks like they've come to some sort of consensus. Referees start to break up and the teams start to take the field again.
The initial indication was the referees pointed towards the Trinity end zone, but it looks like the Trinity offense is coming out there nonetheless. And they're going to spot the ball right around the area that BJ Stewart fell to the ground with it. So not exactly sure what the call was or if the referees went ahead and wiped that one away.
Well, whatever happened, ball is at the 15, and the Tigers trying to kill the remaining 7 minutes and 41 seconds of this game. Up 28-16. Here's a carry for Hutchison. Hutchison has a lane. Hutchison diving. And he's going to have the first down at about the 27-yard line.
And Hutchison looking over to the sideline, hitting himself in the head pretty hard right there, signaling how tough of a runner he is. And that's exactly what he did right there, putting his head down to finish that one, just lunging forward to pick up the first down.
Hutchison remains in the game for Trinity in the backfield. They look to the sideline for some sort of signal. That's how they've been communicating with the sideline. They hold a banner. That's how they get the calls in. First down and 10 for the Tigers. About 7 minutes remaining. Another give to Hutchison. Hutchison tripped up as he lunges for about the 30-yard line, and that's where Trinity will have it for second down.
And Hutchison's stats just flashed across the screen a moment or two ago. Maybe not the greatest night on the ground for him. He has about 9 carries for 30 yards so far this evening. We'll see if we see him again as the feature back, as Legend Grigsby has made his way out there. But overall, this running attack has done exactly what it set out to do. Almost 35 attempts on the night and almost 150 yards on the ground. The best effort from this group against this Mary Hardin-Baylor team over the last 3 years.
Grigsby has a good run. He's going to be brought down past the first down marker all the way to the 42, as Legend Grigsby hasn't gotten too many touches, but when he's gotten them, he's been explosive.
Absolutely. It was the same thing last week, and it's something that you would expect out of a guy that converted from wide receiver to running back. He has an incredible burst, and he really gets to demonstrate it on those little pitch plays outside the tackles.
First and 10 at the 42-yard line. Grigsby remaining in the backfield for Trinity. This clock ticks away. Mary Hardin-Baylor down 2 scores. Give to Grigsby again. Grigsby fighting past the line of scrimmage. Maybe gets a yard or 2 out of that play on first down.
Yeah, and that one may hurt his average here on the evening, as he had about 5 carries for 71 yards ahead of that. Almost a 15-yard average for Grigsby. A huge evening for him, as he also found his way into the end zone. Again, part of this rushing unit that was just incredibly successful against what has historically been a very stout Mary Hardin-Baylor run defense.
Just a quick little note here. Looking at the sidelines, we have seen the kicker Huddle, who we last saw limping off the field in obvious pain. He is up. He is kind of moving around. I did see him attempt a practice kick. Helmet not in the hands at the moment, so not sure exactly what's going to happen once Trinity gets a little bit closer to the end zone. May have to see how that situation develops, but so far looks like he is at least able to be up on his own power, which is better news than how we last saw him.
Important note there. Tigers were up 17 points with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter against St. John's. So still very possible that Tyler Huddle could have a large role in this game. The potential field goal at the end. Trinity hoping to avoid that. Up 28-16, 5:35 remaining in the game.
And you mentioned only 5:35 left here in this one. A second and long here for Trinity, but this is the territory where Mary Hardin-Baylor really needs a stop.
Here's Crawford. Crawford trying to break away. He will from one tackler, but still going to be brought down short of the line to gain. The line of scrimmage even. Most importantly for the Tigers, that clock will run.
We're going to get a Mary Hardin-Baylor timeout here. That's going to be their second of the half.
UMHB down 2 scores, electing to use those timeouts early on this drive, as it'll be an important third down for Trinity.
Yeah, certainly have to come away with a stop right here. But a little bit surprised to see Coach Harmon use the timeout in this scenario. A 3rd and long is something that Trinity's more than capable of picking up when they're ahead of the sticks, as they are right here. But still a really difficult task nonetheless. So to burn the timeout, leave yourself with just now 1 being shown here in the stadium in San Antonio is a bit of a surprise. I think more often than not, you would like to see what happens on this 3rd down play, whether it's a rush, maybe you stop the clock then, or an incomplete pass would do that for you. But instead, going to have to really focus in, dial in, and get the stop here on 3rd and long.
All the quarterback numbers on your screen. Praise for Tucker Horn. He has been dialed in. 3rd down and 9. Could be one of the downs of the game. Horn will keep it running up the middle. He's going to slide short. And a late hit. The flag has not been thrown, but you can hear some groans in the crowd that there was no call, as you're going to see it here on the replay.
And I think maybe some Trinity fans familiar with a call that didn't go their way last week. Tucker Horn certainly gave himself up on that one. I think he was fully on the ground when that hit was delivered. That was number 10 coming in from the secondary, Trace Holmes, the strong safety for Mary Hardin-Baylor.
The Horn sliding down short of the line to gain. Mary Hardin-Baylor burning their 3rd and final timeout with 5:19 remaining. So here's the question. 4th and 1. Are you kicking it, or are you going for it with the opportunity to take even more time off this clock?
If you're asking me, I think I might go for it here on 4th down. The way the defense has stepped up in the second half, 0 points allowed to this point, and the way that the running game, the rushing attack has really established itself is enough for apparently Coach Urban to send this offensive unit back out there. You're going to see Carmouche line up in the backfield. I'm not going to say that totally takes away that pitch outside the tackles, but that's worked mighty, mighty well with guys like Legend Grigsby. We'll have to see if it's a hard count here or if they go ahead and snap the ball.
4th and 1 from the Mary Hardin-Baylor 49.
It's that
And
hard
they
count.
jumped, and the flag is thrown, and that should be an automatic 1st down for the Tigers.
And I think that one's just going to about seal it here in San Antonio. Even with over 5 minutes left, Mary Hardin-Baylor had just burned their final timeout.
The officials are going to discuss. I think the only way that would get called on Trinity is if they say that Mary Hardin-Baylor did not, in fact, cross the line of scrimmage. See what the call is. So it will be offsides on Mary Hardin-Baylor. A 1st down for Trinity. And that hurts if you're a Crusaders fan.
Yeah, absolutely. To burn 2 timeouts in a row, to burn one ahead of the 4th and short, I'm sure that's a focal point in the timeout. You're assuming more than anything else that offense is going to come out and try and draw you off sides. You have to be watching the ball in that situation. Again, a lot of turnover on this roster, some inexperience on that defensive line, and I think it's just showed for Mary Hardin-Baylor more early on this season than it has early on in past seasons.
1st down carry, and we wouldn't expect anything different really for the rest of the way for the Tigers. That was Justin Carmouche getting the candidate.
We mentioned it a lot at the mainly towards the end of the 1st half and towards the top of the 2nd, but Mary Hardin-Baylor once again shooting themselves in the foot with fairly unnecessary penalties that have really come back to bite them here.
We asked Coach Harmon in our interview with them, Mary Hardin-Baylor will beat Trinity if, and he said if they do not beat themselves. They've done that a few times here tonight. The carry for Hutchison. Hutchison has a lane. Hutchison going to be close to another 1st down. Going to be about 2 yards short, but either way, the clock will keep ticking for the Tigers.
And I think the biggest thing about this rushing attack, and I know maybe I've harped on it a bit too much this evening, is the fact that it's been so balanced. We see teams get caught up in trying to just fruitlessly shove it down the throat of the defense through the tackles. It's something that hasn't worked for this offense in the past against Mary Hardin-Baylor, so they've switched it up tonight. They've tried to get on the outside, use the space, use the speed of this back, and the balance of that and these runs between the tackles has really paid off, as that's another big run up the gut.
Hutchinson up the middle. That was a first down on that previous play, and this might be another one for Trinity as they are running it down the throats of Mary Hardin-Baylor. That is something that I don't think any of us could have fathomed saying in November when these two teams were playing in the postseason.
The last two matchups between these teams, Trinity gained a net total of 55 yards across 2 games. 2 games, 55 yards. 22 in the first matchup, 33 in the second. They're closing in on 200 here tonight.
2nd down and 1 after the Hutchinson run. Jonathan Milo, and he'll get the carry. Milo going to be close to the marker. We'll see where they mark him. The host of white jerseys in there to make the tackle.
The thing about the Trinity rushing attack is that as opposed to last week where it was pretty well stifled, this week it's just felt incredibly dominant. Great push at the offensive line, but also just in play design, they've been able to go inside, outside, short screen passes. It's just felt it's just felt like an incredible day so far for Trinity's running backs.
They will move the chains after the Milo run. Another first down for the Tigers. This clock keeps ticking away. Under 3 minutes remaining in this one now, and another first down would seal it.
I'm not sure we're going to see Trinity get into the end zone. I'm sure this offense would much rather have the ball in their hands as time expires here this evening.
That run by Milo on first down. No 2-minute warning in college football, so this clock will keep going. It'll bring up 2nd down.
You know how I mentioned at the top of the half how this is just a great, good old-fashioned Saturday night primetime game? It's also a great, good old-fashioned football game. So far, Trinity has 193 yards rushing, only 182 passing. So a little bit of a throwback to the older style of football here.
Talking to Coach Urban, said that we believe we can run the ball. The age up front and more experienced players that they have. Seeing it in full display tonight, almost 200 yards rushing, as it looks like that'll be a timeout by Trinity.
Yeah, and the thing about the rushing attack tonight is the fact that it's almost a complete 180 compared to the offensive approach that they had last week when they went and played at St. John's. Again, in that game, Tucker Horn threw for over 350 yards. The running attack wasn't as present. It was hardly present at all in comparison to almost 200 yards on the ground here this evening. I think it just shows the level of preparation that this coaching staff has put in both of these weeks. It didn't feel like the offense was stifled in either of those games. They did exactly what they set out to do, just spectacular game plans to start the season here for this Trinity unit.
Urban telling us in our meeting with them that game against St. John's, even though they lost, they got to play a top 5 team in the country on the road, and they played them to the wire. Just showed that if they play their ball and prepare and trust the game plan, they can win any way, anywhere. That's a run for Winston Hutchinson up the middle. This crowd starting to roar in applause as they're sensing the result that's about to happen.
Yeah, definitely a feeling that's starting to set in here in San Antonio. We talked about the fact that there are a lot of fifth years on this roster, a lot of players that have matched up with this team a couple of times, and both times come away a little bit heartbroken in the playoffs. Now, tonight, as the clock clicks down towards 1 minute, it looks like they're going to get their first career victories against this Crusader squad.
That's a give. Hutchison. Hutchison's going to get in. Touchdown, Trinity. And Luke, you said you were thinking that we might not see the Tigers get in the end zone again. Well, Winston Hutchison wanted to get another one as Trinity extends the lead with less than a minute remaining, and that will almost certainly write an end to this one.
Yeah, and it's where they've been most successful. Hutchison taking this play, again, breaking it outside of the tackles. Just a mess in the middle right there, but he uses his speed. Hutchison getting into the end zone, and just a great start to the year for number 25. He's a guy that was the starting running back, got a bunch of carries in the 2021 season. You look at what this offense looked like. He got almost all of the work. He had 137 rushing attempts compared to just 43 for Legend Grigsby and 21 for Justin Carmouche. But last year, the script flipped. 103 for Carmouche, 79 for Grigsby, 71 for Hutchison. It's what we've seen again this year. They've all been fresh. They've all bought into this system, and so far it's working.
And also
35 points on the board for the Tigers. A great night offensively.
And also a quick update there. That PAT was good, so glad to see that Tyler Huddle, the one who is kicking that one off, definitely not suffering at least too much pain there. Glad to see that he was able to get back out for at least a play, and hoping that we will also be seeing him next week.
Will be Eli Gaiman to kick this one off. Huddle not hobbling off the field after the extra point. That's always a good sign to see. You always worry about hamstring injury. As Gaiman, the punter, will send this one away. A low line drive. Miller will receive it at the 10. Brings it out past the 20. A good return for Miller. Still going past the 35. So Kenneth Miller, he's had a great game tonight. Definitely not the reason for the score.
Yeah, he's been fairly dangerous from that kick return perspective. We've seen him return a couple of punts. Certainly something to keep note of, and a bright spot on the evening for this Crusader performance. You had a couple of vets that stepped up. Miller was great in the return game. He was great out of the backfield. Cephas and Day were both great at the wide receiver position. There's certainly things to build on. I think there's more to be happy with than what Crusaders might have seen last weekend.
Bay's gonna go down. We'll see if Mary Hardin-Baylor decides to run another play. It looks like they're going to line up for it.
Drayden Ashford there was the one on that sack.
Here's a carry to Cormier. Cormier going to get to about the original line of scrimmage. And that should do it. The Trinity Tigers. A dominating performance offensively against the team they've gotten knocked out against in the last 2 seasons. As Cormier's brought down, and there are zeros on the clock. The home opener for Trinity and their fans showing the appreciation they have for this program, getting their first win of the year against number 12, Mary Hardin-Baylor.
Yeah, a massive victory here at home, and especially what a way to bounce back after an incredibly disappointing result week 1 at St. John's. They saw that lead disappear in the second half, but to come back, not let it affect you in another huge ranked game against a team that's beaten you in 2 consecutive playoffs shows a lot about this team. But it's something that we talked about with Coach Harmon. This is the regular season. It's a week 2 game. It's very likely that if both of these teams take care of business in their conference schedules, they can both get in the playoffs still. we could see another matchup with as much weight as the ones that we saw the last 2 years. We talked about it tonight. The Crusaders went through a ton of turnover on this roster. Defensive line, skill positions, everywhere. It's earlier in the year, and you just have to imagine they're going to keep improving. There was a ton of improvement from last week to this week for this squad. I think a lot to walk away with, but for Trinity, just a game where the offense took care of business. You handed the keys over to the big boys up front. I think it's what Coach Urban has really been wanting to do. The size, the experience, it took its toll. It added up. 35 points on the board, 200 yards on the ground this evening. Just a masterclass of rushing the football from this Trinity offense, and it was awesome to watch.
One of the things that we talked about with Coach Urban, of course, a lot of injuries last week, quite a few injuries and players being out this week as well. He really emphasized Trinity's next man up approach, and it definitely came into effect this week as well.
So the tradition for Trinity University, they will sing the alma mater after a home victory, as we'll let you soak this one in. So the alma mater, Tucker Horn waves the flag, and the Trinity Tigers can walk to the locker room 1-1 with their first victory of the season. As Trinity, road does not get any easier for them. Upcoming, they will go to Birmingham Southern, a team that they played an absolutely unbelievable game against last year. And it'll be a road game. They fared in pretty well over the last few years.
Of course, yeah. During our meeting with Coach Urban, he said that the team in general just absolutely loves going on the road. They love having the sort of target on their back, the kind of pressure to perform. It really brings out the best in this team, and so we will get to see a fantastic game whenever they get to go to Birmingham next week on the 16th.
Mary Hardin-Baylor, they will play Wisconsin-Whitewater. Another ranked team, that'll be their home opener next week, as Coach Harmon has scheduled his team a very difficult out-of-conference schedule. We'll see you in 2 weeks as the Trinity Tigers host Rhodes on Tiger Network. I know Caleb will be on that one. It'll be really fun for everybody involved. And that's it for us on Tiger Network. For Caleb Reed, Luke Terry, and everyone in the control room, I'm Cole Isaacson saying so long from San Antonio.